Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I'm joined by regular co-host, one Mister.
Andy Conduit Tanner. Hello, Ben. And indeed, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to all, and
Merry
to
Black
all,
Christmas.
Merry Black Christmas. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, a good fright.
Oh, because it's our podcast. How you all
Because
doing?
it's a bloody horror podcast. See what I did there? And I didn't even plan that. That came straight out.
The Pun Master.
The plan master. I mean, I'm doing good. How are you? You feeling? Are you feeling festive? We're officially on date of recording 1 week until Christmas time, until the Christmas day.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty festive. I've got just a couple of days of work left. I've been watching more Christmas movies, but you know what? I say that I haven't hit a lot of my big Christmas essentials yet. I'm hoping for a quiet couple of days to catch up. I haven't done any Gremlins yet.
Oh, no gremlins.
Not Gremlins.
Interesting.
And of course, it wouldn't be Christmas Eve, probably, usually Christmas Eve, where I sit down, gather my family around me, get the dogs, sitting all in a cup, putting our matching jammies, have a little
Hot chocolate,
sleepover,
hot chocky wockies on.
hot chockies, get some little marshmallows floating around in there, and sit down to watch Christmas classic Jack Frost.
Oh, Jack Frost. I wonder where you're going to go with that then. I
We'll
don't
get
know
him
where I
on.
thought you were going to go. Jack Frost, but either or, eat both of them.
No,
Just
never
a
seen
horror
the
one.
never seen the nice Michael
Never,
Keaton's
s-
just a
never
dad that
seen the
wants to
Michael
make
Keaton one.
amends,
Michael Keaton is a musician, I think, and
neglects
he's
his
like
kid too
a
much, and
cool,
then
famous musician. And then he's off on tour all the time, and then he becomes a snowman.
yeah,
It's not
becomes a
nowhere near.
snowman. No, I've only seen Bad Murderous Jack Frost.
Mm. And that's how many sequels has that got?
Just the one. But that's not a Christmas film, that's a summer holidays film. Maybe we'll do that this summer.
Obviously. Well, you say that, but we haven't even done the original yet, Andy.
Oh, of course.
Not as a
Right,
straight up
we'll do
classic standard episode.
we've just done it as like a touchdown. Maybe we'll do a proper Jack Frost episode next Christmas.
Sounds good. So it sounds like a plan.
How
I
about
don't
you?
know.
You feeling festive? You decked all your halls?
I mean, all my halls are decked. Christmas presents are mostly bought. I don't know how festive I'm feeling though, because it's definitely. I'll get there. I'll get there. But I need to watch some Christmas classics as well. Despite the fact I've watched three Black Christmas movies in a row. My stat. I usually do a Home Alone and a Home Alone 2, but I usually these days I'm so familiar with those films. I've probably seen them upwards
Just
of
close your eyes and imagine them.
exactly. But I usually put it on as in the background while another Christmas activity is happening. Present wrapping,
Yep.
uh, anything else like that. Get Home Alone on in the background because I could recite it, and Home Alone could be considered a horror movie for anybody who's terrified of home invaders, being lost in a big city, a man salting bodies with a with a
Yeah.
massive.
It's all right. Misunderstanding though. It's just an old man.
It's just a misunderstanding, and such a misunderstanding that when you get a chance to be nice to this kid, just slam your hand down right next to him on the counter when it's covered in blood. Slam your hand down as hard as you can and glare at him. And if he thinks that you're a murderer or something, that's his own fault for making that assumption. But
Yeah.
just slam your fist down and glare at him, and then
Force
speak
him to
also.
shoplift.
And the same thing happens in the second one. The same thing happens in the second one. Every instance of scary pigeon lady is terrifying until the moment when she speaks and she's all nice and soft spoken. She sounds like Mrs. Doubtfire. Dear.
Maybe it's because they're just a bit shy. Macaulay Culkin, big star.
That's true. I'll tell you what, Uncle Buck is also, despite it not being a Christmas movie, that still gives me the sort of vibe, the Christmas vibe as well. Big time. And stuff like Mrs. Doubtfire as well, sort of like family movies that aren't necessarily Christmas movies, but still give you.
We've conjured it though, but now we've spoken about Jack Frost. We've revealed, if you hadn't read the title, that we're talking about mostly one, but in essence, in the spirit, like three Christmas ghosts, three
Yeah.
Black Christmas movies today. Have you got any other sort of horror recommendations for Christmas, Ben? Any horror things that tickle
I
your
mean,
Christmas fancy?
last year's Christmas episode was Silent Night, Deadly Night, which I think is good, and the ridiculous nature of the sequel as well is also worth watching. Uh yeah, Gremlins, horror adjacent. I mean, it's kind of horror film, isn't it? That's always a good time. Always enjoy that. What other festive horrors have we got? Christmas horror movies.
We had This in the Barn that we saw a couple of weeks ago. It's a
Yeah,
nice one if you want a new one for this year, put that one on.
yeah, definitely. Um, is that there is like some sort of horror Grinch movie, isn't there? But I think are we believing it's
Yes, the
around about the
mean
same
the mean one.
the mean one? Are we thinking it's about the same sort of level as sorry, but the old Winnie the Pooh film?
You know what? I couldn't comment. I haven't seen it, and I don't know where it's streaming. I saw a physical live, honest to goodness copy in HMV in London when I was there a few weeks ago, but
Yeah.
I couldn't comment. I haven't heard the Winnie the Pooh one had a lot more buzz around it. I think there was a lot more going on, buzz like a bee's buzz.
Buzz, like a bee's buzz, just honey buzz. Yeah, I got you,
Yeah,
mate. Yeah.
but I haven't heard much about the mean one other than the fact that it exists. I've not seen any visuals of its Grinch or anything like that.
Yeah. Obviously Krampus, obviously
Oh, Krampus is very good. Rare
Rare
Exports is
Exports
fun.
is pretty good. Can you call The Thing a Christmas horror movie? Bloody snow everywhere.
I guess it's cold, but is it? I mean, you'll probably get more flack for that than you would for Die Hard, right? So it's not actively Christmas, although some
Yeah.
people pointed out it could be a Christmas Chronicles prequel. It's how he
Yeah.
finds himself up in
Yeah.
the wrong pole, but that's
Christmas.
the South Pole.
So Christmas Bloody Christmas, which I think we saw last year. I didn't think we did a main episode on it, but we covered it.
No, yeah, we talked about that.
Robot
You
Santa.
you weren't too keen on that, right?
Well, I can't remember really. Now I look back on it, I think it was all right,
I
wasn't it?
liked it. I liked it. I thought it
Christmas.
was just a lovely bit of fun. I think you didn't like it that everyone was super cool and had like pithy lines.
Oh yeah, I think yeah, maybe that. But I think as a concept, like Robot Santa is still pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
like cool
it,
people, so I enjoyed it.
I like cool people as well, but I won't accept it when I think they're cooler than me, Andy. All right, I won't enjoy that. Oh, go bloody hell, that's not fair. Um, I'll tell you what film I don't like though, and I'm going to put
What's
it out
that?
there. And I'm sure I've mentioned it before. I have no time for a Better Watch Out, and a lot of people I see people saying, "Oh, Better Watch Out. This is a great alternative Christmas horror uh Christmas movie or a Christmas horror. Don't like it. Something that makes me blind with rage rather than anything else. I can't enjoy. You remember
Is
what this
it
one is?
is yeah, I've only seen it the once. I feel like I quite enjoyed it. Do you like it less after? I won't spoil it here for anyone who hasn't seen it, but do you like it less after a certain twist?
I mean, yeah, I think so.
The
I think
one
I
at
do
like the
like.
halfway point of the movie, does that put you off?
Yeah, I just don't like it. It's a horrible. It's a mean-spirited film, but like not in a way that you can kind of get on board with. It's a
Yeah,
mean-spirited film where you're just like, oh Jesus Christ, surely not. This isn't on. Again, yeah, it makes me blind with rage rather than going, yeah, do it. No.
yeah, I can see what you mean. I can see tonally that might take you out of it a little bit.
Hmm.
We have It's a Wonderful Knife this year as well. If you haven't seen that yet, that's on Shudder
Yeah,
now. If
it
you've got
is
that
on Shudder.
platform,
Highly recommend that. That's a great, interesting spin on a slasher movie, and also, yeah, a festive slasher movie.
and then we've said
Um,
it before, but Jack Frost all day, every day. Christmas
but
puns, slashing, Shannon Elizabeth, other actors,
oh
good
yes.
times.
And is it Deadly Games? Is that sort of
Is the
Home Alone
French?
esque?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
French pre Home Alone. Home Alone.
pre Home Alone, Home Alone. Yeah, where it's like Santa turns up and a kid goes, you know what? You're having it. Or is he an evil Santa?
He's not even a Santa. He's just a bad man, like a horrible burglar.
Just a bloody bad man with a beard, isn't it? Why are people breaking into the house when little kids there? Kids are scared of the dark.
So there he says, but I think he's been stalking him online. Like he's been, all right, it's me, Santa, online. Do you have a house? Yeah, I do. And he goes, right, that's the address. I'll come around and burgle it then.
Come around and burgle it. Oh, Jesus. Bit
Yeah,
harsh, isn't it?
he's a bad Santa.
You're asking for
Um,
trouble, really, aren't you?
yeah, there's plenty of I think Christmas of all the holidays, is one that I think we get the most horror content out of.
Anna and the Apocalypse. That's Christmas time
Oh,
set, isn't it?
ever so
Ah,
good.
ah. Christmas Carol or Scrooge, any form of Scrooge film, bit scary as well. Ghosts.
Is a ghost story. I would maintain this. I'm going to go highbrow on this one. One of my favorite ghost stories.
Oh yeah, very nice. You like a Bill Murray, Scrooged?
Um, Less so than the original. I think Scrooge has a good
Oh,
place, but it's no replacement for just a traditionally acted Christmas Carol. ever so good
Yeah.
on stage. Go and see it at your local theatre, support the arts.
Ah,
But I'm gonna go see it on Christmas Eve, actually, Ben, in
are you?
at the Dundee Theatre, taking my parents. If they listen to this, spoilers for your present, everyone. They don't listen, it's fine. Um,
We're
um,
going to listen to this podcast for 1 week before we come and see you, just to prep
oh,
ourselves.
they're driving up next week. Might listen on the way. But no, I'm going to take them to see Christmas Carol at the Dundee Theatre. Ever so good. We watched it there
Oh,
last
wow.
year. But then, of
Sounds really
course,
lovely.
when it comes to acting that out, you can't do much better than the Muppets. On Christmas Day, I have a little cry. That
Yep.
little frog boy is going to upset me like he does every year.
That little frog boy. And of course, Michael Caine playing it as straight as he ever has in any movie. He's not acting like he's with Muppets, is he?
No,
He's acting like
with the
like
finest
he's in
actors in
a
town.
Shakespearean production,
And it is, you know,
which he is.
it is especially if you've read A Christmas Carol, quite a chilling ghost story as well. It's a great one.
Yeah.
Always got time for that around Christmas time, even in the face of a world where we've watched 3 Black Christmas movies.
3 Black Christmases all together. Did it feel like a slog for you, or did you feel are they different enough to make it feel like it's kind of like watching very different films?
I think I got away with it in the order that I watched them.
Okay.
I went original recipe, Black Christmas.
Yeah.
Then I did brand new, newish 2019 Black
Was
Christmas.
that your first time watching that one?
That was the first time I'd seen that one. We'll get into
Yeah, me
thoughts on
too.
that a bit later. And then I went back and finished with 2006's Black Xmas, which I saw at the cinema when it came out. Got a
Did
bit of a
you?
soft spot for. Got a bit of a
Got a little
soft
bit
spot for
so.
this Black Xmas.
I'm a bit I'm not sure if I've seen it. However, like there's so much familiar about it. I don't know if it's just the cast or what, but I was like, maybe I have seen this before. I think, yeah, it is a lot more enjoyable than perhaps it gets credit for. And by gets
Yeah.
credit, I don't think it gets much credit, especially in that sort of era of slasher movie like 2004 to 2006. Um, I guess, yeah,
And it
needs
goes
a bit
pretty
more love.
hard.
It does go hard, yeah, it does. There's a bloody yellow bastard.
There's a that yellow bastard, and I tell you what, don't let your kids watch this because people getting plastic bags on their heads like anyone's business.
Yeah, exactly. Don't put
It's a
that
health and
plastic
safety
bag on your head.
nightmare.
Exactly. Everyone will be having absolute health and safety nightmares. Okay, so before we get into our trio of Black Christmases, Black Christmas, Black Xmas's, um, any right horror news? A little bit of horror news, obviously.
Oh,
Things
we
are
got
kind
a
of
little
slowing.
bit to round off Christmas.
Things are kind of slowing down a bit, aren't they, around the world? So people are looking at things and going, "What's that? I could save it till January." I bet you're like enjoying that sentence. We'll circle back in January. We'll pick this back up in January. People are loving
Yeah,
that.
even
Um,
better when you get to be the one saying it. January,
oh yes,
please.
I'll do what I want.
Talk to me about that then.
Little bit of news. The X-Files is reportedly plotting a return from producer Ryan Coogler. Yes, Ryan Coogler, the same man who directed Black Panther. He's still attached to produce a brand new version of the X-Files with franchise creator Chris Carter. He had apparently teased that earlier this year. So obviously, Disney got their mucky paws all over that, haven't they? They're
Mm.
developing a new version of it. And it would feature a diverse cast. So you might not have a smoking man anymore. It might have a vaping man, all right,
Oh,
or a vaping woman, or a vaping kid, or a kid who smokes cigars. Don't know. Obviously the show originally ran from 93 to 2002, and then we got some extra seasons in 2016 and 2018. Don't know if you watched any of that in.
no, because I just didn't get around to it, but I'd like to, especially now. X Files is one of those shows which is now tantalizingly all available in a place. So I'd be like,
Tantalizingly all available,
I could just start that again.
hopefully in the best possible quality.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good. 2016, 2018. I remember I definitely enjoyed it because it was like X-Files is back. Oh my God, wow. But I don't remember it being like this is better than it's ever been. I remember it being like this is fine.
So there's the
And
talk of this one it being a not a continuation, but just new X Files.
well, I don't know. I think right. I hate to say it, and I hate to say it because I'm always for new things. I enjoy new things. There is absolutely no way it can include anyone other than Mulder and Scully, played by David Duchovny and Gillian
So
Anderson,
you
right?
couldn't. So That's what I
Nah,
wonder though.
not until they're dead. Not
Could
until
you
they're in the
recast Mulder
earth.
and
All right.
Scully, or could you have just this is about some X Files in a bit way, in a bit like you might have a Star Trek, right? You don't have,
Okay.
oh, this is Patrick Stewart playing Captain Kirk now. This is Jean-Luc Picard. Could you have like, oh, here's some X Files. The drawers are still absolutely chockers, mate. Loads of unsolved X
Right,
Files.
loads of it
Get a
here.
couple of new lads in to do it.
Spooky Mulder. What and
Spooky
then
someone else.
and have
Spooky Simon and
spooky Simon and the other one,
skeptic
skeptic
Sandra.
Sandra. Oh, I was going to go for Sandra. Sally, I almost said Sally.
Yeah.
What and then have Mulder and Scully as like legacy characters who pop up now and again and
Yeah.
just
You
nah,
know, a
not old
bit
enough.
like when you've got like a legacy series and you know some of the old ones pop in. Like when
I will. Right.
yeah.
I'm happy to agree with that as a concept for almost anything, but X-Files, I ain't having it, mate. I ain't having it. I'm
Billy
going
Mulder could be the new
absolutely not.
he could be the new Skinner, except to be really supportive of people
Ah,
looking at the X Files. It'd be
they
like,
have literally
X
got
Files, yeah, get in.
they
I'll
have
look as
literally
many as you
got
want.
the best chemistry of any two people that have ever been in anything, even more so than who else has got good chemistry?
Um
It's Jack and Rose in Titanic. Actually,
Frasier's
actually,
brother
I
and
disagree with that. I disagree with that because the love story of Titanic took place over about 3 days. I'm like, get over each other. God,
that's why she
stop
let him
crying.
drown.
That's why she let him drown. I mean, I'd like to see new versions of anything, ideally, and I think if anyone's going to reboot this or even have a new version of it, I think they're going to know that the very first version they have to deliver is with classic actors in it in the roles. If they have to do something else, I'm happy with it to be called The X Files, More Files, or something like
Yeah.
that.
The X Files colon something.
The X Files colon. We got the drawers are still full over here.
Oh, the
As I
first X Files could be like a Doctor Who thing where Mulder and Scully fall into an X Files,
yeah.
and the mysterious thing that happens transforms them into different actors.
Ah, Doctor
So
Who
you
style.
acknowledge as part of the story, a bit like um,
Obviously, there
Evie's
were.
character in the third Mummy film, where she goes, "I feel like a completely different person." She's being played
Oh
by a different
God,
actor.
that was never forgiven, was it?
No,
Um, I guess so. Doctor Who style. They could just like transform. We get that. Uh, but yeah, that might not work. Um, okay. The other bit of news is we've got a picture of Willem Dafoe as a mad vampire hunter in the Robert Eggers remake of Nosferatu. And of course, he famously played Nosferatu actor Max Schreck in the 2000 movie Shadow of the Vampire, which I think I mentioned recently as like
yeah,
the weird sort of like meta. He's an actor playing a
pseudo
vampire, but
documentary, but also
he
fictional.
is a vampire. Yeah, yeah. So there's obviously Willem Dafoe has been in all the Eggers films. He's been in oh wait, no, he hasn't. Sorry, he's been in a Eggers film, The
And
Lighthouse. That's
Eggers.
what I meant. He's been in a singular Eggers, and now he's in the remake of this, and he's playing a human who's hunting the vampire. And 1 week after seeing Anthony Hopkins playing Van Helsing himself, now we get Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue in the same way as Van Helsing. But he describes the character as a crazy vampire hunter. And the picture we've got of him, he looks crazy. His mouth's wide open. He's laughing, gone nuts. So
Crazy.
yeah, and I don't know if we mentioned this before, but it will release Christmas 2024, December 25th, 2024.
Silly. Cinemas will be closed.
A, cinemas will be closed. B, horror movie. Nah, people will be flocking to it.
It's a bit
I think
early.
does some cinemas actually open on? They must do.
I know, but even
Otherwise,
if
that
they
sounds
open, who's
mad.
going?
I don't know. I might. Uh,
It's full of bloody turkey. You wouldn't eat it on popcorn.
You'd fall asleep when you immediately. I
Yeah.
say that. I went to the cinema last night. It was ever so warm in there. I was nearly falling asleep, and I wasn't full of turkey. But then I woke up when I realized that Godzilla was coming.
We had to do some
Um,
reading, don't you? Because we had subtitles.
oh yeah, I had to do some reading.
Ever so tired
Uh,
reading in the dark.
that's right. I'm fine with that, man. I'm fine with that. I'm a man of culture. And the last piece of news is a game that neither of us have played, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Alan Wake 2 has won 3 awards at the Horror Game Awards. Slightly different to some other horror game awards, which I think we've already mentioned from recently, but it won Game of the Year and a few other things.
Still haven't done it, and I've been deeply impressed that it hasn't been spoiled to me on the socials yet. I guess
Yeah,
that is the wonder of Twitter being dog shit these days, because
there we
I haven't
go.
really been on there, which means you
I
can't
think,
instantly look at people posting screenshots of spoilers at the
yeah, I
ending.
think even like major spoilers for things, I think you've still got to like read something or like watch something. So if you can identify it as a potential spoiler, you can just keep scrolling. Because there was some Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League so spoilers today. Have you heard about those?
Ah, thankfully, again,
There we
this Twitter
go.
shit, I haven't been on it.
There we go. And I was scrolling for a while and I didn't see anything of note. So there we go. But yeah, Alan Wake won Horror Game of the Year, Best Narrative, and Best Soundtrack. Resident Evil 4 won some stuff as well, including Best Performance for Nick Apostolides, aka Leon. Most anticipated horror game? Any
The new
ideas?
Silent Hill, or
Correct.
the
That's a good
the
answer.
remake of Silent Hill.
A
Sorry.
good, quick answer. Most accessible horror game. I guess that means for the accessibility options, not the fact that it's just hang on a minute. This
Oh,
is
there was something that got like loads of plaudits for accessibility. You have to tell me.
The Last of Us Part One.
Okay.
I'm assuming like the new version for PS5.
I feel,
Uh,
isn't it fair? Isn't it meant to be a fairly standard thing now? You think it would be at a hardware level rather than even it being coded into games. That for things like quick time events, just holding the button rather than having to get
yeah,
people to mash them should be fairly normalized now, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah. I
to be
think so.
honest, I could do without smashing the buttons all the time. Just hold it nicely.
There's a bloody boulder rolling down past me. Get out. But yeah, I think Alan Wake winning big is good because I think, despite the fact that I enjoyed Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space this year, they are remakes, so it's good to see like a new sort of
A new
title,
thing, yeah.
a new thing, even though it's a sequel, but still like a new thing. Win big, and obviously the big hitters won more so than any indie games, but still, there's still plenty to play. And Alan Wake 2, if it's not going to get a physical release, I'm going to have to take the plunge and just
Yeah,
get the old digital
really
fella
get
on.
on with it.
Bloody get on with it. You telling me to get on with
Yeah, I am. So you should get
it.
on with it. I know
Hurry
I've
up,
had
mate.
all the time in the world to buy it but not play it, but
No.
um,
Well, it
in
took me a
many
long time
ways,
to even play the first one.
you're contributing to that success, Ben. If you want a physical copy, they go, it's a soldering well, we should do a physical copy.
But that's what'll happen. I'll be the final purchase of a digital copy that pushes over the limit, and then they go, "Let's do a physical copy,"
Yeah,
and that's what I want.
the sooner you do it, then it's all right.
They're waiting for me. Uh, there we go. So that is the horror news. I guess we should move on to what we've been watching, and we got a couple of things to discuss this week that we've both seen, right?
Yeah, both together, not together at the same time, but both in the last 7 days.
Together in spirit, at least. But yeah, in the last 7 days, so the big one is the cinema release of Godzilla Minus One, the Takashi Yamazaki Toho Godzilla movie. What would you call it? Just like a retelling, or not
It's
necessarily a
just
reboot?
it's
Just a story. Just
it's a standalone Godzilla film, right? It doesn't exist in this as a sequel or a follow-on to anything else. It's set in Japan, begins at the tail end of World War II and then goes to just after it. And
Mhm.
we then just when the country's at zero at its like darkest, worst hour, having just had to surrender at the end of the war, having
Oh, is
been
that what it
utterly
means?
devastated.
Is that
Yeah,
why it's
yeah,
called Minus One?
yeah. It's I think it mentions it in one of the trailers. So the country had reached its lowest point. It was at zero, and then what's can you get worse than zero? Yes, you can. Here comes a
I tell you what,
Godzilla.
Godzilla got terrible timing, didn't he?
Yeah,
What a
yeah.
bastard! But he is a bastard in
Um,
this, right?
yeah, he's horrible Godzilla in this one. Not friendly, save you from other monsters. Godzilla. It's Godzilla in a traditional sense, where he is a threat, an allegory for nuclear war and devastation.
Yeah.
And did you? What sort of screen did you see this in, Ben? Was it
I didn't
standard?
see it in an IMAX. I did see it in a standard screen, but you did see it in IMAX, right?
Yeah, it was on the IMAX near me, and it was so good.
Jesus.
Not only huge screen, good for big Godzillas, but I can't think of a time that I've been to the IMAX screen where I've had any specific comment to make about the sound other than Oh, that's good,
That's
loud
loud.
noises. There are bits like I don't want to go into spoilers because we're not doing the whole film really, but there's a bit where where Godzilla first uses his big atomic breath on like a ship that is fighting him in the thing.
Mm.
And genuinely I felt like almost physically buffeted by the boom of the sound in that cinema. I felt like I felt the breeze come past me on it. It was so heavily impacted. The sound design on that film is incredible between the really heavy sounds that really give the film a lot of weight and
Mm.
I mean, it's the classic, probably remastered and rearranged, but the Godzilla march, the score that's on there when he's
Oh
marching
yeah,
through this, it's so good.
really good. Yeah, 100%.
What did
And
you
I can
make of
only
the film? I
imagine
know I'm a Godzilla fan, but what was your thoughts?
as we watched a lot of films in the IMAX for Fright Fest, like I can understand how the sound, because even like standard films in there were like boom, and it was like the sound mix was ridiculous. I can only imagine what a film like this is. Um, but yeah, like I enjoy Godzilla films. I'm a casual sort of enjoyer of Godzilla films. I'm not super up to speed on the history, especially the Japanese ones, but I've seen plenty of them. And yeah, this one I feel like is probably the one that gets the story, the human side of the story, which is always the bit that's like the bit you don't really care about, isn't it?
Yeah, put bloody
Um,
Godzilla on.
put bloody Godzilla
Boring.
on. This, bloody hell, human story was amazing. You
So
believe
good.
it? So many good characters. Like you really felt the plight of everybody involved. You're really rooting for everybody involved. Um, yeah, and it doesn't feel like military propaganda essentially because it's almost like the people who are, again, this is not really a spoiler, but kind of the people fighting back are kind of just like citizens, aren't
Civilians,
they?
right? They're just people.
Civilians with military experience, but still civilians kind of fighting back because of the inter the sort of politics surrounding different countries. It sounds really realistic. Now you can't fight back against Godzilla because if you do, we'll be fuming about it.
Yeah. Oh, and also like I kind of love the films where like where they get it just right. It's not like oh, the army are trying all these weapons and maybe there's something that'll work. It's just like Godzilla is really well represented in this film as just this such an unstoppable force
Yeah,
that
like you
it's
really feel it. Like when he's destroying certain, it's just like, ah, what? Well, there's no one left alive. And when they give you the number of people who were killed, you're like, oh, bloody hell,
and that
Godzilla,
was him
it's
just
unforgivable.
popping in real quick
Yeah,
into the town. It
yeah,
is yeah, I loved the human story. I generally, if I didn't have plans with you this evening, Ben, I'd quite happily sit and watch this again.
yeah. It definitely feels like
Yeah,
one to see again. It's like epic. Like it's made for the big screen. It's beyond epic. Special effects are amazing. I'm assuming that like it's a mere sliver of the budget for what would be like a Godzilla
yeah,
King of the Monsters, for example.
and that's one of those things
Uh,
as well. I think I'm so glad to see this going well. I'm just going to quickly look up the Godzilla minus one budget. Um, but the what they do with so little, I think it's obviously Japanese productions in cinema are very different. They're not got the
yeah.
same sort of budgets as we used to seeing from a Western film, but it feels like they got an awful lot out of every single penny of this film. And you
Oh
don't it
yeah,
doesn't
100%.
like it's very different from when they've spent that much money on these things. I can tell that it must have cost them less, but I didn't think I was taken out of it by the effects at all. I
Oh
think the
no.
Godzilla looks really good.
I'm not looking at it thinking this looks cheaper than a Hollywood blockbuster. I just think I think I knew that it was a bit cheaper, or a fair bit cheaper. And that's the thing. Like sometimes you can get the sort of huge big budget special effects of certain these big Hollywood blockbusters almost like neuters them a little bit where you really don't care and you're just looking at stuff flying around and you know what I mean? I feel like that with the last few Transformers movies where I'm like I mean I couldn't name a single person who was in them actor wise. Definitely couldn't name a character. Whereas this, I feel like Godzilla minus one, the first thing I'm going to think about is the human story rather than there's a bloody great dinosaur man roaming
Yeah,
about.
I love the cast. I love the crew that he has on his ship. It's
Yeah,
funny in parts. I really cared about this bits. There were moments where, and I think this is one of the things that you get because you don't. It's not like a film where you see like it's got a Tom Cruise or a Brad Pitt in it. It's like, well, you're going to be fine
yeah,
because I don't. You don't know so much about these things. You feel like there's just moments where you're going to rip this out from under me, and you're going to lose someone like that you really like in this film,
yeah.
and sometimes you do.
And
But
sometimes you
there were
bloody do.
moments where literally, like you were just holding your breath because they get the power of Godzilla so right that he could just destroy them instantly.
He could just
Um,
he could literally do a nuclear bomb directly into your face.
yeah, and you'd be destroyed. I found the budget 15 million
I mean, that's nothing, is it? That's literally
for
nothing.
for a film, like no money.
Yeah. And it's going to make a lot as well because I think it seems to be the first one that's really captured the attention of a huge part of mainstream audiences. I think with something like Shin Godzilla, I was aware of it and I know a lot of people were, but this feels like it's got a decent cinema release. So people are going to see it. I mean, something like Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I was comparing it to, budget 170 to 200 million.
Yeah,
They're
so
not even willing to give you the actual budget.
that's like even charitably 1% of the budget, probably less.
Yeah.
And they did
Yeah.
such an effective film, I think, with that.
And I think like the human story in the Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters was always one where I'm like, oh bloody hell.
Get on with
Just
it.
get on with it. Just get out of there. Get out of there.
Press a
Stop
button that
mucking
calls
about.
Godzilla, and
Yeah, get out of there. Stop it. Uh stop it, Millie Bobby Brown, reaching towards Godzilla. Is that what she does? I'm pretty sure she does. I'm
yeah,
gonna reach even though I'm a minuscule ant in comparison to you, I'm gonna reach towards you and hope you recognize me. Notice me, Godzilla.
yeah. But this, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of it. If you're listening to this podcast around the time of release, and certainly if you're a UK listener, it is on UK screens this week.
Yeah.
With films like this, you don't know how long they're going to be in cinemas for. If you get the chance to see it on a big screen, especially if you're anywhere near an IMAX that's screening it, go see it. You will not be disappointed. You don't have to be a huge Godzilla fan. You have to like good films,
No.
is all.
Yeah, I think that's it. You have to like good films, and like it didn't just feel like a Godzilla movie. Like I was getting some. There's definitely some like Independence Day vibes about it. Like
Yeah,
everybody rallying round and like we're gonna do whatever it takes to make sure we protect this shit.
it's
That
really
stuff.
good. Yeah, I really, and it's like it's quite funny and sweet in some places. It's like brutally sad in others. It's really, really good.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, check it out. Okay. The other thing we were going to talk about as well, something that we've watched again, not horror essentially, but it's got some horror focused things that it focuses on within, is FPS, the first person shooter documentary. If you listened to my bonus episode with the Terabytes producer fairly recently, Dan, then you will know that first person shooter was something, the documentary from Creator VC, the makers of In Search of Darkness, the 80s horror movie documentary. If you like games, and if in particular you like games where you can see it from the perspective of the character you are, you can see their
Do some
little
shooting.
gun or fist, do some shooting. And of course, sure, lots of non-horror games, but loads of Dooms covered in this, and some things have got horror. I mean, Half-Life's definitely got sci-fi
Half
horror
Life has some
vibes.
incredible horror in it. It covers fear or FEAR
Oh
if you
yeah.
are
Left 4 Dead?
no Left for Dead,
Oh,
interestingly, but
sorry,
loads of
I
other
didn't mean to
Valve
jumping
things.
in there.
Loads of
Yeah.
other Valve products. Yeah, obviously, even Halo has a great deal of horror moments in there as well. But
Four and a
really
half hours, right?
exploring, yeah, 4.5 hours beginning from the very beginnings of the genre where the technology barely existed to make the visuals to
Yeah.
I think certainly for me, I'm just about the perfect age for these things. I
Mm.
think we talked about it last week. I was 10 when Doom came out.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the things they mentioned were literally in my wheelhouse growing up. They talk a lot about Quake, they talk a lot about Unreal Tournament, they talk a lot about a lot of these big hitting first person franchises through the years. And in a really nice way, you can see the excitement of the creators. It's cut very nicely with little clips of some iconic moments from those games and lots of things talking about the communities that grew up around them. Really,
Yeah.
really good documentary. I know that it's available to purchase digitally now, so you can
Yeah.
enjoy it for yourself.
I
Sneak the link
think
into the show notes, maybe.
yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so you can buy it. There's like a digital pack which you can pick up, which is what we did. But yeah, I think there were Blu-rays available as well, but pre-order maybe ended fairly recently. I'm sure they'll do another run of it um
But if what you want
eventually.
to do is see it, digital lasts forever, so get hold of that.
Digital bloody lasts forever, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. But yeah, highly recommend it because for someone who enjoyed In Search of Darkness and In Search of Tomorrow from the same makers, it's just one of those like really extensive, expansive things. And when they start speaking about a game you like, it's not like you go blink and you miss it and they're moved on to another one. They take their time and suddenly
Yeah,
you're really listening to some really interesting anecdotes and stuff about the making of you maybe never knew. So yeah, it's all incredibly enjoyable, incredibly well made.
there's some great stuff. Ben, before we move on to the film of the week, unless there's anything else you've seen, let me quickly put the old radars up. Ping, 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 ping. Little bit of news if you want to catch up. If you've been following us this year, and I'm going to try and do this every time I see another one that's available. But one of the films we saw at Fright Fest, we saw it at festivals. When these things come available, I want to try and flag them up.
Yeah.
Um, Black Mold, which I saw, and I'm not sure you did, right? You were in something else at the same
Just
time.
you saw that one, yeah.
Black Mold, I really enjoyed. Cast and crew are also very nice people. That always helps put them up in my estimations. That now, if you're in a country where you can get Tubi, which certainly you can in the US, it is streaming free on there now.
Sweet.
Um, so if you're in a country where Tubi is accessible to you, it is free on that platform. Get yourself caught up on it. It was one of the things I enjoyed most at Fright Fest. Really interesting psychological
We,
horror
we've got
story.
we've got an interview with the director
We do.
on our episode, haven't we? Fright Fest
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Episode 300 and something. 299.
299. Yeah.
299, that's right. Episode
299.
299.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
really must get on to some of those folks and see if we can get them on for an episode next year. But
Hell yeah.
yeah, really, really good. And if as I say, if you're in a country where you can access Tubi, cost you nothing.
Get
Give
on
it a
it.
watch.
Freebie. Awesome. Okay. I think that's it for our
From Black Mold, Ben, to
oh
Black Bloody
yes.
Christmas.
To Black Mold to the Black Christmas. So we're not just talking about the 1974 original. We're mainly talking about that, but we are also going to talk about the 2006 remake and the 2019 remake. You know, when they do that remake, and we've done like original versus remake episodes in this podcast. Don't think we've done a triple bill of this magnitude, at least. I'm sure we've done a
Oh,
triple
there's
bill.
only one even more powerful, Ben, and I don't believe, even looking back at the episode list, that we ever pulled it off. We did Fear Street in one episode.
Oh Jesus Christ! Oh my
All
God!
three.
Bloody hell! I remember. I
Don't know how we did
kind
it.
of remember that. I still feel sleepy after that episode. Uh, yeah. So obviously, Black Christmas, which is a 1974 um, Canadian slasher film produced and directed by Bob Clark. The story follows a group of sorority sisters who receive threatening phone calls and are eventually stalked and murdered by a deranged killer during the Christmas season. And yeah, and then a 2006 remake as well, which I think in some instances we call Black Xmas, at least on the poster or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's
Um,
marketed as Black Xmas, but you say Black Christmas, I
you
think.
say Black Christmas out loud, so that obviously is a remake, kind of leans more into like the sort of extreme nature of some of the horror, the slasher, extreme but like mainstream American horror style.
It's yeah,
Um,
I'd say the 2006 remake is very in the new metal era of
Definitely,
slasher
yeah,
movies, right? It's like post
100%,
Scream,
yeah.
um, yeah,
So there's
quite
Ca-
self-aware,
Ca-
with a familiar cast of the era as well.
Yeah, cast of the era. So Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Michelle Trachtenberg, Katie Cassidy. So yeah, very familiar faces. And Andrea Martin as well, who's in the original, and she was in Black Xmas as well. And then we got a 2019 remake, which I didn't actually see when it came out. I saw a lot of the marketing for it. So this stars Imogen Poots. We've talked about her on the
Oh,
28.
Poots from 28 Weeks
Oh,
Later.
Pootsy. Oh, Pootsy. Carrie. I hate this guy's surname. Carey Yules, the guy from Saul.
Oh, and he's in a Christmas film. Carrie Yules.
Carey Yules. Oh yes, Yules. And then some other people I didn't necessarily recognize, but still good solid cast. And we're going to talk about that one as well. A very different version, rather than like a spiritual remake or a spiritual successor to the original. This feels like it just kind of takes a very loose look at that and goes, "We're going to do
Yeah,
something completely
I
different."
tell you what, Ben, we'll touch on it when we get to it, but take a little bit of pride sometimes to think, I can see where these things are going. Didn't see this one coming.
Didn't see that one coming at all. But yeah, so in terms of focusing on the original Black Christmas, I think we discussed it briefly on an episode we did very, very early on in the podcast, maybe the first year or so, where we talked about just Christmas horror in
Was
general. I
it
think it was the
when we did 10 Christmas horror movies? I think it might have been the second time I was ever on.
10 Christmas horror movies. Got Andy Conduit Turner on to talk about Jack Frost. He hadn't stopped going on about it ever since. Um, so
That's a good as
original
well.
it's ever so good. 7.1 on IMDb, Black Christmas. 73% critic score, 76% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, 3.8 on Letterboxd. Choice reviews. Cinema Void says, pro-choice, giallo-infused proto slasher, and my new voice for answering telemarketers. 4 stars. Nathan says, anti-nativity, a charred and frozen pentagram atop an upside-down cross fashioned from tinsel and pine and rageful tears. 5 stars. Bert says, a slasher classic, one of the first of its kind, never seems to feel dated, still just as fresh as today. 4 stars. And Belial,
Belial,
Belial
Belial Taylor
Carbone,
Matthews.
Belial Taylor Matthews says, grown up fast, the granddaddy of Yuletide horror. It's just as unnerving as powerful as when it shook me to the core many, many years ago. 5 stars. So, I mean, there were some negative reviews that I found, but none were as kind of interesting as all of those. So I
No
thought I'd
pithy and
include those.
interesting ones. So
No pithy and interesting ones. They're all kind of like, this was boring. I don't even like Christmas. Put a bag on me head.
from the
Um,
Grinch, was it? I
it was the bloody Grinch, wasn't it? Yeah, Jazzercise. Um, so yeah, Black Christmas. I've seen this before, and I'm sure you have as well.
I.
Probably a couple of times as well. Talking about budgets, 1.3 million. This one I've just noticed. Bloody hell! Cast:
It's
Olivia
almost a
Hussey.
Godzilla. No one that big in it.
No, there's
No one
no
as big
big
as
Godzilla.
Godzilla anyway.
No. Well, maybe there is, but maybe they're just filmed really far away. I don't know. Olivia Hussey, Keir Dullea, Margot Kidder, John Saxon, and as I mentioned as well, there. So John Saxon, bloody hell, he's Nancy's mum in A Nightmare on Elm
That's
Street.
his mum. That's interesting casting.
God, Nancy's
Very progressive for 1980
Nancy's
for the
dad. You
1980s.
you were on that so fast. I didn't even finish the sentence before it was literally like Nancy's mum. And Nancy's mum, is it? Yeah, yeah. What's that? Nancy's mum. Oh, I don't think so.
I have to edit that unprofessional.
Andrea Martin is in this. She's like the house mother in Black Christmas 2006. In this one, she's not the house mother. She's obviously a lot younger. There is a house mother in this, and she loves a swig of the old brandy.
She's filed it away under B for booze, but also brandy if that's what it is.
Yeah, she brushes her teeth with it. She'll have a big old swig before she's going out for a night out. She's
Before she
on it.
slags her cat off.
Slags her bloody cat off. So yeah, in terms of the setup for this film, I guess it kind of makes sense to talk about this one and the 2006 one kind of at the same time, maybe because it's kind of the same sort of thing. We've got like a sorority house. There's like a Christmas party in the first one being held / gathering with all the sorority sisters, but also like boyfriends and then there's a dad
Yeah,
coming
it's
over to
just
pick one of them
get
up.
everyone round. Well, he's coming around. He comes round in the morning, but
Comes around in the morning. He looked. Do you know what he
everyone's
looked
coming
like?
over.
Her dad looked like Charlie and the
Grandpa
Chocolate
Joe.
Factory dad. Looked like back Grandpa Joe. I was like, Grandpa Joe, up and about, is he? Lazy bastard. What's that? Oh, you can get. We got a golden ticket. He leapt out of bed. Did a cartwheel.
Oh no, I've just someone pointed out this week, not someone in person, like a parasocial podcast relationship. I should credit them because they have taught me this thing as well. So we do that joke, but now in realization, now I'm sad. So now I have to put it on you as well, Ben. Pointed
Oh,
out in that podcast that obviously Grandpa Joe was like, oh, I see, staying in bed all this time,
Depression.
can't get, yeah, depression. I was like,
Oh yeah,
oh
yeah, yeah.
no, he was
It's
just really
depression.
depressed. He had
It
no
was obviously.
reason to get out of
I'll
bed
tell you what's
now.
depressing though, being in bed with like four other people. How many was it? Four? I'm not sure. Not in a
Three other
good way.
people.
Three other
Yeah,
people. Imagine the bed sores.
yeah. Imagine the guffs under those blankets. But anyway, it's not about Grandpa Joe. Yeah, a man who just looks a bit like him, just Dad Joe, Grandpa Dad. He turns up a bit later,
Grandpa
but
dad.
right now they're having a
Yeah.
party. Margot Kidder, like this was one where I was really, as I watched the original, really difficult to try and place who your main character is going to be because Margot Kidder is front and center at the very beginning, isn't
Yeah.
she?
So obviously we've covered her before in the Amityville Horror 1979 version of that film, and yeah, I guess like a pretty big star like throughout the mid 70s and late 70s as well. She was in quite a lot of things. She was in she's obviously Lois Lane
And Superman.
in Superman. Um yeah, so this was kind of yeah, it is difficult to work out who is the main um
Yeah, literally until there's only one person left. Yeah, it could be any
yeah,
of them.
because you got Jess Bradford, who's basically answer of phone constantly, and she
Yeah.
answers the phone in such a weird way as well. Like initially, she's like aggressive, "Hello, who?" It's like, oh Jesus, give me a break. But yeah,
Oh, you'd be fed up when it's always bloody Scatman John on the other side.
it's always scam. Yeah, that's true. So she answers the phone, and it's an obscene phone call from a person who was called before, and the sorority have nicknamed that person the Moaner. Now,
Here is the Mona.
it's your bloody moaner. What's he doing on the end of the phone? He's moaning again. Um, yeah, pretty creepy. Have you ever received a phone call like this?
Um, Thankfully, no.
So
I mean, I've
so
had
my
one where sometimes, when you're in the modern era of mobile phones, when someone's phone's gone a bit wampy or they're in a weird signal area and they
yeah.
sound like a robot and they're talking to you, and it is just your wife saying, I'm just walking past the co-op. Do you want me to pick anything up? And you hear,
Who the fuck is this?
it's
Luckily
the
for her,
Mona.
it's
Gather
the
everyone
bloody
in the house
moaner.
round.
The bloody moaner. I think there was a guy like this who
It's
used to
funny, Robin
call
Williams from as the genie in Aladdin doing all of his impressions.
all his impressions in one. Um, so my partner Charlie used to been on the show. Don't need to talk about her if she's a stranger. Used to work in Ann Summers, where obviously you get some dodgy phone calls
Oh, I
from
bet the
people.
Monas are always
There
phoning
were
you.
lots of moaners, and there were lots of people who like wanted people to like say a certain thing. So be like, "Excuse me, have you got any of those sex toys that look a little bit like a penis?" Dildos, and they go, "Yeah, that's it. Say it again. You dirt." It's proper.
Oh, no.
It was like very specific words. I think there was one guy who used to want someone to say, I can't even remember what it was. It was a bit weird. But yeah, some people would be like all breathy while they were talking to you. Not me. Maybe
Oh.
me. It wasn't me.
Maybe the Ann Summers had a very not too dissimilar number in Bristol to the Boots the chemist. They're phoning for their asthma medicine.
That's true.
Hello.
That's true.
Hello.
Are you? Are you having a Tommy Tank over there? I'm gonna come and murder you, dirty bastard. Call up Babe Station, all right? £1.50 a minute. I mean, it could be. I don't know. Don't ask me.
Oh, the
I,
real
I'm
criminals there, I tell you.
I'm the last person to know about that. Although, no, no, no. Although, whenever you have a look at Babe Station, they're always wiggling the phone like that, like no one's on the line. So I'm like, either it's real, there's no one on the line and no one's calling, or someone is on the line and
So
they're having a
jiggle the
great
phone
time,
about.
and you're not even listening. You're not even listening. You're going, yeah, what's that? Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean,
So what we've learned
this
today is
isn't
that
that
Ben Errington thinks that the women on Babe Station have poor phone etiquette.
exactly. They do. Did you hear what I was saying then? No, it's because you're wiggling the bloody phone, aren't you? Pay attention. I've £1.50 a minute.
Pay £1.50 a minute for this.
This moaner, I guess everybody kind of thinks it's a sexual thing, and even says some sexual things, doesn't he? He says something like, "I'm gonna put my tongue somewhere rude." He
I
says
mean,
at one
trigger
point.
warning, we do have an explicit tag on this podcast, right? Ben, you can say, I mean, for the purposes of science, you can say, he goes, "Ear, when I stick my tongue in your cunt." And I was like, actually, an American film using the word cunt, this is revolutionary for 1974.
I wasn't gonna say it. It feels a bit I don't know. It makes me
It's for
feel.
science, Ben. You're saying it for
I
science.
guess it's for science. Reminds me a bit in Silence of the Lambs. Someone says that, didn't they? And
You're
I
not
feel like I
saying
don't
it
want
to
to
be a
repeat it.
super cool, edgy dude.
I guess not. I did. Yeah, I
I
guess
won't
not.
make you say. I've said it now, so that's okay.
You kind of said it, and then you. Oh no, you did say it. So yeah, the
Said it
voice
twice. Check the
is like.
tapes.
It's not just like it's not like the moaning you would expect to hear in like a film like this, where you'd be like a deep sort of creepy moan. It's very unhinged. It's very like
Yeah,
loads of mad shit going on. Scatman
he
Joe,
is.
you're
He
right.
is
You're right.
Scatman John slash Ace Ventura, Pet
But
Detective. Yeah,
in the
yeah.
two in the 2006 version, what does the person call in? It's more like a scream type of voice, isn't
He's
it?
doing screaming. He does the mom voice. He goes, Billy, what your
Yeah,
mother and I want to know
that's
is
right.
where is the money? No, and it's
So the 2006 version is like leaning really heavily into Billy as a character, his experience of
yeah.
growing up and why he is the way he
I
is.
think they do a
And
lot more in the way of explaining, don't they? Because I feel that the original recipe Black Christmas, by design, we should say that even though it's a film that got mixed reviews at the time, John Carpenter, master of horror himself, will tell you that it was a
yeah,
huge inspiration on Halloween. It itself is based on the olden days urban legend of the babysitter and the man upstairs.
yeah,
You know, the
the
call's coming
call,
from the house. Like
which is
that's
creepy. It is
yeah,
scary.
it's
The call's
based
coming
on
from the house. Actually, I think you're mistaken. The call's going to the house. No, it's
yeah.
coming from the house.
Got
Ah!
two lines. Got two lines. Only could happen in a very specific house with two phone lines, but or a block of flats, I guess. Um, but so
The
it
details.
becomes quite influential. But this original one is quite opaque. It's a little bit like not One Missed Call, that's the J horror one. The other one where there is another where there's like a babysitter. One missed no, not One Missed Call. Stop trying to say One Missed Call. I'm,
Don't, don't. What's it called? Yeah, what is it called?
oh, I've ruined that. I'm gonna have to look it up for
Don't
myself
answer the.
now.
It's called. Don't answer the bloody phone, you mug. The call is
It's
coming
like
from inside the house.
what is that film got? Right, I'll think of it later. So
Yeah,
there
think
is
of it.
another film in which there is a babysitter that's getting mysterious phone calls. In which have you checked the children? That one.
All right.
Um, I'll Google "Have you checked the children" in a minute and find out what it's called. And if it says one missed call, I'm hanging up, so I've lost it. But yeah, it's quite opaque. It never goes out of its way to explain any background. There's just a horrible bloke that's doing a set of murders.
When a stranger calls.
When a stranger calls, thank goodness. Yeah,
Thank
so
goodness for the bloody Google.
yeah, so when a stranger calls is another one
There was
that's
a
obviously
remake of
heavily
that as well,
inspired
isn't
by
there?
this. Yes, there's a
Yeah.
original recipe and remake of that, which has a similar vibe, in fact, where the original doesn't really take any steps to explain. It's just a horrible bloke that's doing a horrible thing. Whereas again, the follow-up does, to a degree, give you some more insight into what happens and close the loop a little bit. Whereas the original, as we'll see, is of Black Christmas
Mm.
really leans into the mystery, whereas the 2006 one gives us deliberate and some fairly intense flashbacks of horrible things that has happened to this kid.
Yeah. Like he was born yellow, jaundice, uh, yellow bastard from Sin City, and yeah, we get like it's almost like the Halloween, the Rob Zombie Halloween style broken home origin story, isn't
Yeah,
it? Wherever it's
got
like he
horrible
was.
mom who punches darts and tells you that Santa's dead, and then bloody blowing hot and cold on him. Gets a little bit older after murdering his dad, goes and has a baby with him.
I mean, there's blowing hot and cold, and there's,
Blowing,
you know,
freezing, and scorching.
but there's freezing and absolutely
Absolute,
white hot.
absolute zero, and then the Aslan breath that'll unfreeze you if you're absolutely frozen.
What's happened? Oh, I've been Aslan breathed,
I mean, Aslan breath, I was
which is great.
absolutely frozen to
If
absolute zero, thawed me
if
right
it's
out.
statue, that's fine. But if you're room temperature and you get Aslan breath, that's it, melted to mush.
Cinders,
The bloody Aslan breath.
the hottest it's possible to be, the hot breath of Sauron himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we'll go into a little bit more of the 2006 version, which I think it kind of aliens it, doesn't it? Gives us an extra dimension, gives us an extra baddie in there. But as
Mm.
this first one goes, it does have a lot of like. So we begin with the Christmas party, as you say. Then there's the Mona on the phone. Um,
The moaner on the phoner.
yeah, and we get Margot Kidder's character basically gives him what for on the phone, gives him some grief back because she's
Mm.
a tough city
You
person. He goes,
dirty,
"You
rotten
get this, buddy,
pervert.
3 times a week on the phone. Yeah, buddy, stick your tongue in the electric socket, mate. That'll sort you right out." Um,
And he says something
just very
damn right disgusting
when
to her.
he's saying the gross things, she basically gives him a little bit of a tell, and then he basically very, very calmly, which I think makes it an even more chilling moment, just goes, "Gonna kill you." Actually,
I'm actually gonna bloody kill you, you know? Um,
yeah.
and the first victim in the original is Claire Harrison. She decides, so she's gonna leave, and she says goodbye to her boyfriend, and she said, "I'll see you soon, see you next year," something like that.
See you in the new
But
year. Popping home for
Dad's
Christmas time. Dad's coming to pick me up in the morning.
Yeah. Goes upstairs to her bedroom, packs her suitcase, and then while she's up there, she's attacked by the killer in the closet. We don't see him, but he gets an old plastic bag on her head and we assume just suffocates her to
Yeah.
death, right?
Whereas the plastic bag motif, I feel it's passing in this original one, right? We get it in this original kill.
Yeah.
And when we see Claire's body posed later, it's with the plastic bag over her
Plastic
head,
bag on her head, sat in a is it sat in a rocking chair, or is
just in a
that the
chair, like in a chair in the
2006?
it's the poster, isn't it? It's like the
Yeah.
chair up in the attic later on.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel in the second one it becomes quite thematic, where basically you
Yeah. It's the
stick your head
MO
up
of the
into the
killer,
loft,
isn't
you
it? Yeah.
stick your head anyway, and then the second he's got you, he's like got one of those little drawers in the kitchen full of
Yeah.
plastic bags. You
So
pop your head anywhere near him, I'll whack a plastic bag over it.
the 2006 version is a bit of a bait and switch, really, isn't it? Because it kind of like we're kind of given a backstory to this killer. We see the killer escape prison, but then we quite quickly learn that like that can't be this person
Because it's
committing
happened
these
before he's escaped and
murders
before he's
because it's
got there.
happened before he's escaping and before he's got there. So almost I was almost like, is there some sort of like weird disjointed like in terms of the narrative? Is it not in chronological order?
Oh, is it like what's his name? It's like a Dunkirk situation.
It's like a bloody Dunkirk situation going on, but it's not. No, I'm not giving any disrespect to the director of Black Christmas, Black Xmas 2006. It's not as complicated as that.
No,
Um,
he's got horrible incest sister that
yeah, yeah, that's it. So we kind of like understand that throughout when he was abused, slept with his mum, or she took advantage of his
well,
seed.
the fact he's been
Worst way of
locked in
putting
a
it.
loft for ages, just
Yeah, I
went up
guess
and
so.
abused him in the attic, and then
Yeah,
whereas he had been massively neglected,
yeah,
um, when they have a second baby at that he was a part of, she really cares for the second baby, so much so that bad old Billy stabs one of her eyes out.
yes. There's a lot of eye stuff in in the
Yeah,
2006 version as well. There's a lot of stabbing of eyeballs
it's like
being
Dario
ripped out.
Argento's birthday party.
Yeah, it is like that. Even like
Fulci, sorry, that loves
in
the
the
eye
back.
stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, Fulci loves the eye stuff. The eyes behind you, I can't even work out the logistics of how you get both eyeballs out and have them connected like that, like mittens.
You'd have to you'd have to poke one out and then pull the other one through,
Yeah, you would.
or
I
maybe
feel
just
like,
tie the cords together
yeah,
like a
maybe,
bolus.
but it's almost like what are those two like heavy? Sounds weird. There's like a toy, like two heavy balls you like clang together, clackers or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Some sort of
yeah, like
70s.
clackers. They're like on a stick, and you can get the rhythm just right, and they
I tell
clack.
you what, that's what's wrong with this generation, right? Everyone needs bloody iPads and Fortnite and Pokemon cards. That was the 90s, but still. Back in my day, two heavy balls you just smash together for hours on end.
Have a clacker,
Hours.
pogs, little loop, and a stick,
It was great. It entertained us for hours on end. Oh, it sounds horrible.
and only some Pokemon cards.
An only son Pokemon.
I mean, one of my favorite toys growing up. Sorry, Ben. Like this story is going to make it sound like a very sad childhood. I didn't. I was fine. One of the favorite things I had in the year of the
Oh,
turtles being so popular was a rusty chain that we found on the in the bushes in a field near my house. It's a bit, but I think it was one that was used for an old-fashioned toilet flush. But we had that chain. That was one of my turtles' weapons that you ever because you can make a Donatello out on the fly.
yeah.
Didn't find any katanas in the bushes,
Oh,
but
that's a shame.
you can make them like that, just this big length of chain, spin
I used
around.
to have a load of old used needles that I used to pretend I was a doctor. But I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
And
Horrible rusty.
because my parents
Andy,
haven't
will
thrown
you
much away.
put that?
I bet that horrible rusty chain's probably still at their house somewhere, maybe in the garden.
Andy, how many times have I told you to put that horrible rusty toilet chain away? Stop swinging it about.
Just running around the
Stop.
garden, swinging this chain about.
That's very good. Uh, yeah, but there's a lot of like some of the visuals, like even that visual behind you, like the eyes, these sort of like really odd yellow eyes that the incest sister has got. She's in Christmas.
Agnes,
She's in Agnes. She's in Christmas jammies all the time, and that's why it's a different take on the killer. Obviously, the killer in Black Christmas 1974 is like a creepy, heavy breathing, rarely seen. I want to say
very
peeping
rarely
Tom.
seen, right?
I want to say peeping Tom, but not
Peeping
really a
Tom,
peeping Tom.
actually, quite nice.
Peeping Tom's quite. What's the difference between oh, for fuck's sake? I'm sorry. What's the difference between a pickpocket and a peeping Tom?
I don't know.
A pickpocket snatches watches while I'm not even gonna finish it. I'm not even gonna. I'm not gonna
It's
finish
surely
it.
only the era of pocket watches. Pickpocket
That's
ones
true.
not called pick wrists.
I heard that on a little podcast clip earlier. I can't take full credit for that, but they didn't finish the joke either, which is what makes it work, I
Yeah,
think.
I think
Uh,
if you do finish it, you're cancelled. If I forgot to credit, by the way, when we were talking about the Grandpa Joe thing, little quick aside, it was the Weekly Planet I was listening to. Very good
oh,
podcast.
was it?
Far more popular
Oh
than us. They
yeah.
don't need me to plug them.
No.
But it is true. That's where I heard it. Yeah. So
I'm googling clackers now. Guess what? You can still get them,
still
brand new.
available.
You can still get them, brand new on Amazon. I can
Oh
get it. I
god,
can get it.
real life horrors. What is a set of clackers going to set you back these days?
Not expensive at all. You know, you can get a 4-piece, seven
Four
ninety
piece
nine.
clackers.
4-piece clackers. There's yeah. Oh, if you want to go, if you want to order it from China, £1.75.
If you don't care about the planet, then
If you don't care about the planet and you just want to clack them together, yeah, there we go. The
there you
first
go.
video though is 1971. Clackers, are they safe? I'd say no. Um. Anyway, so back
Um,
to Black Christmas. That's what I meant to say.
yeah. So Claire is killed in the original. This is when we get to the next morning. She's disappeared, and Claire's father goes into town because she didn't turn up at the train station. So
Yeah.
he's looking around. He's asking the other girls. He seems very put out
He
by
gets annoyed
everything.
by there's like a guy who's really rude to him, and then he like goes, "Hang on a minute, do you know Claire Harrison? She was nice to
Oh,
meet you."
he absolutely cops a snowball, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He
pops
cops
the
a
snow.
snowball, and this guy comes over like, "Oh, ever so sorry, those kids that are just innocently playing bashed you in the face, like
Yeah,
got you right in the face with that snowball. I should
right
have
in the
been
mush.
watching him." And like, he doesn't play the social game very well. Someone has come up and apologized for something that isn't really their fault, but they've apologized, and what you're supposed to say, particularly in the society we've grown up in, Ben, is, "Oh, don't worry about it, that's fine." But he goes,
Yeah, yeah,
"You fucking should have been watching him. Actually,
yeah.
you should,
Oh yeah.
oh, you've made it weird now, Grandpa, Dad."
You made it so awkward. But to be fair, he's under a lot of stress.
Yeah, his daughter is
I
missing,
can't
so he
blame him.
probably is.
Yeah.
Um, and the police aren't very helpful. There is like a really sort of obstinate, bad, rubbish policeman idiot on the
Oh
desk.
yeah, just an idiot policeman who is just A, not taking any reports of like people missing or anything like that seriously. He's like, they're probably just in a cabin with a boyfriend or someone making horrible, dirty phone calls to us. Probably just a boyfriend mucking about. Oh, great.
And it wouldn't be bad if this was endemic of the entire police force. But when you actually meet the other, like the police captain, old
Yeah.
Nancy's dad, he's like, yeah, let's. This sounds serious. Let's solve this immediately.
Yeah, well, he goes straight to him, doesn't he? The Grandpa Joe, Daddy Joe, goes bypasses this police officer and goes straight to the captain, or is it a captain or
Or the
lieutenant?
sheriff,
Lieutenant.
maybe, is it? Because it's
Straight to the
a
lieutenant because he's just like they're not taking it seriously. So now I should. Does he? Does that happen? I
take
feel
him
like
a
that
straight.
happens.
I think that, and then the boyfriend. So Claire, like one of
Oh,
the
the
other
boyfriend like
boyfriends.
storms in, doesn't he? Yeah. As
Yeah,
soon as the boyfriend finds out that Claire's missing, he like storms in and says like, "What are you a bunch of idiots doing? We need to find her." Because yeah, they're just
I'm
white. They're
taking this
just
straight to John Saxon.
they're just putting on they're sweeping it under the rug because they just think it's yeah whatever. And this is like the police force don't look very good in this initial sense, but like. Is it because it's Christmas and everyone's winding down? They've gone, oh, someone missing.
No more
Of
crimes to the new year if you
no
could.
more. Can you just not wait till the new
Um,
year, please?
the important bit that we should cover here at the same time, Jess, who is our key phone answerer, um, goes to tell her boyfriend Peter that she's pregnant, but she doesn't want to have the baby and she wants to undergo an abortion. Um,
Yeah.
a more progressive conversation that I thought would happen then in a film of the 1970s. That's my ignorance of what the 70s were like because I wasn't born.
Yeah,
But
but I'm sure it was like
probably a
I'm
very
sure,
hot topic at the time.
a hot topic and like people watching Black Christmas maybe wouldn't be the kind of people who go, hang on a minute, I completely disagree with that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so it's almost like uh Jess does inform Peter. So Peter is her boyfriend character. He's a bit of a I don't know, a bit of a suspect initially, isn't he? I
He
think
is as
when you
soon as he smashes up
initially.
that piano.
As soon, oh yeah, because he plays some proper horrible piano. That I couldn't even listen to that. I'd be like, this is garish. I know he's doing some sort of piece for someone to try and get into some sort of school, or is it some sort of
Special music club.
yeah? It's like proper. Initially, I thought, is he just mucking about on that piano? And then when I saw people watching, I was like, oh no, this is the real deal.
Bashing the keys. Play it
Smashing the
nicely.
key, do it nicely, do something nice. So yeah, when she tells Peter that she's pregnant and plans to undergo an abortion, he like completely disapproves, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Where she's just like, it's not, it's my decision. It's my body. It's my decision. Yeah. So a progressive conversation to be had in
Yeah.
this instance. I think this film is kind of all three of the films are kind of representative of progression in terms of topics of conversation, despite making out that the cast is mainly young women of a certain
Yeah.
age. And of course, there's a lot of stuff about sexual assault, rape, obviously abortion, and yeah, just like loads of that. And I think the 2019, no, we're not going to get into that too much until I guess towards the end. I feel like that one like almost takes it to the very very next level. It almost takes it to such a level that it goes beyond the Me Too movement and everything like that, and almost makes it feel a bit silly in terms of the
Yeah.
way it eventually goes. Um,
I feel that
that makes
film will
sense.
come to 2019 because it's so hard to talk that one in parallel with the other two because it completely doesn't follow the same thing. But as
Yeah,
we've touched on it thematically, yeah, I found that maybe that one would have worked a little bit better for me if they just dialed back on one element. Like I think you could have had these things being endemic and these things being having the serious conversation on these ones without where they take it to
yeah,
ultimately, which I felt diluted the message a little
because it almost
potentially.
felt like something like Promising Young Woman, but to such a degree where it was almost parody, where it
Yeah,
was like rather than everybody dealing with trauma in their own way and all sort of banding together. And I like the kind of thing when they talk about ants and stuff like
yeah.
we're all like ants, we all just stick together. Whatever they said. It was
That
good. It
was
was it was
that
it was
that
poetic. It was
was
good.
that
But I
was
feel like
good.
every other line was something about you know. And was that supposed to be the was that what it was supposed to be like? Were we supposed to feel like some of these characters are quite in your face and garish? Because in a way, we're kind of like, do you know what I mean? I don't know. It just felt like it took it one step too far, didn't it? I think I saw someone describe it as not too much message, not enough movie.
Yeah, I can see that, and it has, and it's not without potential. And
It's not without potential. I
I think the
think
message in it is good. It's just that they, in a way, a thing that isn't the message, the ultimate explanation. I'll put a pin in it. I'll talk about it a bit more later.
yeah.
I think
I would just say
where they take the metaphor in the end, actually dilutes the message more than just
yeah.
having a straight up message would
I
have
think
been.
so, yeah. I think so. Because I think, yeah, something like Promising Young Woman, there were moments in that film where I was like, I don't like the way this film is going. But I think that was the point because it was like,
Yeah,
you're not supposed to like it because, these sort of terrible things that happen do happen.
yeah,
And, you're not, we're not going to, it's not like a straight up standard revenge film. Like the sick bastards of this world probably are going to win in some way. Um, Whereas this film, yeah, too much message, not enough movie. Very clunky, and I think maybe that was the script. The script felt clunky. I don't think any performances were bad, but what they had to say sometimes made me feel a bit, oh, woo. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like sometimes you want to be like, hell yeah, good for her. As obviously that is a genre of horror movie in its own right, the good for her genre. Uh, but 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 do you know what I mean? They almost went one step too far, where like almost every chance for any character to say something that kind of had what they thought the script really thought they were really doing something here. Like,
mm,
wow, there's going to be a line here, and it's going to be iconic, and people are going to be saying it for years to come. Too many of those moments and too many misses, unfortunately.
yeah. Well, I'm going to
But
put you on notice, Ben. I'm going to ask you that animal question before we get to the end of this. So start thinking about what you choose,
I can't
just
remember what it was.
quietly, and
What was the question?
you have to name three animals, and then there was a meaning behind it, which I'll try
Oh
and
yeah,
remember.
it's silly like that.
Um,
I would have shut that down immediately if someone said that. I was like, is
I'm
there
going to
seriously
ask you,
nothing?
so you know you're
I
not
would
allowed to
go,
shut it down.
is there nothing else we can talk about? Because that is boring.
It's boring.
It's boring. Are we talking about something else? Like fuck, marry, kill or something like that? What are we talking about? What's your favorite string animals?
Oh,
I
there's a
just do something
reason.
mad.
There's a
As a reason.
reason.
Okay, sorry, right, you go.
For now, though, back in the main one. So we kind of have a little break from any killings for a bit. Like it's a classic horror movie. Like in the daytime, you're probably all right. Um, so Claire's dad is, pressing the search. They're trying to navigate the difficulties with this policeman, and they eventually, as the search gets going, um, the house mother McHenry um,
Mm,
has she hears the cat, and she's already had one element earlier on when she was about to go out with the dad, and he was going to give her a lift to town, where the
mm.
cat's been fucking about, and she's been pissed off with the cat going, "You're gonna make me late, you piece of shit." Um, she hears the cat uh, complaining again somewhere, and she's looking for the cat, and she heads up into the attic because that's where she hears the cat from above. And this is where Claire's body is in the iconic, kind of sat with a plastic bag overhead scene.
Yeah,
And then
don't do
Billy
that.
is waiting
Dangerous.
there with
A
a big
hook.
hook.
A big like sort of pulley system hook thing, whatever you call that, and swings it at her head and manages to like slurp her off up into the
Yeah,
attic.
slaps her off up
Slurped
the
off up
attic
into the
hole.
attic, up the attic hole. uh yeah, discovers the crane hook, it says here actually. Not long after that, Jess answers another phone call, and this is when she decides to like file a report to the police. And obviously she's she's doing the right thing, but I think the police actually Lieutenant Fuller is the only one taking it seriously, really, because he arrives with like, a guy who to tap the phone, a telephone line man. Tell her how long she got to keep him on the phone, for God's sake. Stop getting him on the phone and then going,
Oh,
nah,
not
not
long
quite
enough,
long enough.
actually.
Not long enough. We want a bit like, I don't know, Diary of a Vengeance when they're trying to tap it and they're going, 5 more seconds, 4 more seconds. Come on, not helping
Yeah.
her at all. Just like, ah, and she's
Just
like,
they
well, it
just
does.
they just tell her what she hasn't done. That no, well, not gonna.
Well, it does. This is how she speaks as well. Well, it does make me feel dreadful talking
I
to
do
him.
feel quite upset talking
I
to
do feel
this.
quite upset. We're gonna have to bloody get on with it, right? And I'm not spending any more time on
Yeah,
it.
change the bloody subject. How are you?
Yeah, just say, listen, you're moaning, you're making weird noises, but I want to get down to the nitty gritty of it. Are you all right? Are you all right? All right? Are you all right in yourself?
Or take a classic de-escalation technique. I'll share this with you, Ben. Karen told me about it. Apparently, especially if someone's being like aggressive or difficult, you can really take the wind out of their sails by pretending you didn't understand what they said or that you didn't
Oh,
hear them. So if someone comes up to you and goes, "Got a
okay.
fucking problem," when you go, "Excuse me, pardon, what? I didn't."
That's
Uh,
good. You're gonna
and not in
enrage them
a not
more.
in a Stone Cold Steve Austin way, where you're like,
What?
"What?" Yeah, if you don't know, and it happened real life, Ben. I think I might have told you this off pod. If I've said it on pod, apologies for the repetition, everyone. I was walking downtown one day, and then a man who I quickly became to understood was quite disturbed came trotting over the road at me, came very close to me, and said, "Excuse me, how is it that you're able to get this close to me?" And I had my headphones on. I looked up, and the man was covered head to toe in tar or mud. Honestly, it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The
Tarman,
Predator.
the Tarman
It's a bit
from.
like the Tarman. So
This
absolutely
is
covered
horrific.
in like just this black ooze. It's just how is it that you're able to get this close to me? And it's but because it took me because obviously no context and they had my headphones on, I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like,
I
he
don't
said it again,
understand.
and the third time I was like, say that one more time, mate. And he was like, how is it
Oh.
that you're able to get that close to me? And it's like you came over to me, and he's like, all right, and then on he went.
And then on he went, and they went,
But
do it, no!
he's never been able to like, obviously could have been a dangerous trap where he was going to
Jesus.
get into an argument, but he really seemed to de-escalate him that he hadn't heard him. So
When you,
that's what you could.
that's good. It's good advice. When
That's what
when
she
you
could
said
do to Billy.
when you said a man came over who was quite disturbed, I thought he was going to go, ooh, ah.
Ooh, no, he didn't say that. But yeah, this is what she could have gone when because this is at this time Billy on the phone. He's escalating
Yeah,
like the clappers, isn't he? Because he's phoning them, and he. This is something that I did like about what they were able to do in the 2006 one because with just these little out of context clues, they built themselves a backstory. Now I don't know if this
yeah.
is something that I need to maybe look this up a little bit. Maybe that Bob Clark originally, maybe it was in the series Bible, maybe it was something that he intended to include but never got round to it.
Hmm.
But just contextually, watching these as pieces of entertainment is nice and interesting how they take what would appear to be random lines where Billy's shouting down the phone is like, "Where's the baby, Billy? Billy, Billy,
Yeah,
kippers
yeah,
for breakfast, Mrs." Yeah, like it's like Aunt Helga. No, it's like they take these little snippets of seeming non sequiturs, nonsensical things that this disturbed person is shouting to her down the phone. And actually, we joke and make light about things, but I think they do a really good job of it being quite unsettling things this person is saying down the phone, right? I think I'd be
yeah.
weirded out. Someone phoned me
Oh
up and was
yeah,
saying all those things. I
definitely.
would have
Yeah,
been quite weirded out because I'd have had to answer a bloody voice call that I wasn't expecting.
yeah,
Yeah. Unless
yeah.
he's
I think I,
texted in advance, I'll be phoning in a minute. You free to take a call? And I'd said, yes, that's great, Billy. Do your worst.
I think
Otherwise,
it's
let it
I
ring
think
out.
it's a good way of doing it rather than in 2006 when you kind of like just see all of the backstory stuff unfold in the nature it does. So, um, but still, I think it's done a lot better than obviously because there's no Billy in the 2019 version. There's no creepy. It's kind of like misogyny and that kind of takes center stage, and this kind of like girlhood between the sorority sisters that takes center stage as well. So rather than being someone who's calling up, they're kind of just like terrorized,
getting texts.
and they're terrorized by people and this group of people, and you kind of think it's one thing, but ends up being another thing. And yeah, it's a bit heavy-handed. Um, so yeah, in the 1974 version, some Christmas carolers turn up after Lieutenant Fuller leaves. Jess is watching the singers, and while this happens, the killer sneaks into Barb's room, and stabs her to death with a glass unicorn figure. Of course, the glass unicorn figure reappears in the 2006 version and is used as a weapon. So yeah,
Did
her
you
cries for
think
help.
in the 2006 version, the slightly like, I guess, the awkward like geek character that
Yeah,
doesn't really have any lines that gives one of our leads the glass unicorn, and then we next see her with her head on a spike
just a head on a spike. Yeah,
in the later one. Did you have any passing suspicions that she might be
yeah,
Agnes?
definitely, 100%. I thought she was Agnes for ages until I got a good look at the at the actual Agnes.
Because
And
especially
her
I
head on a
feel like it
spike,
was coded
killed off
about that a
screen.
little bit, because it's like, because everyone is very judgmental about it in a very 2006 way, where it's like, ugh, gross. She wears glasses, and
Any
then
glasses? She's all
even the
that all
house
over again.
mother, the person who is employed to work at the sorority house, says, yeah, but she was a like a legacy team. So basically, she was allowed in because a family member was in the sorority beforehand. I was like, is this going to be a Billy thing? Like, is
Yeah,
it? But no, that's nothing. She's just a head on a spike later on.
head on a spike. It was a bit unfair, wouldn't it? I feel like she didn't really get we didn't get much from her. She just appeared, gave a gift, and that was it. Um, yeah, bit odd. So yeah, when Barb gets killed, Jess receives another phone call where the caller's like emulating parts of the argument she had with Peter, talking about the
Oh,
abortion.
when he
So
when he first like threatened her and said you weren't having an abortion, and then
yeah.
and
So
then
again,
he
this is
like
pretty
begs
creepy.
later on, but like the killer seems to have heard all of this.
Yeah. But it's like, is it so that makes you think A, the killer's heard all of this, or B, the killer is someone we've already seen, we've already
Yeah,
established.
it's a good bit of a who done it in this one, right? I think Peter quickly becomes a major suspect for us. He doesn't want
Yeah,
his
definitely.
partner to have an abortion. He gets quite, when he does come around and they have an argument about it, he sort of violently storms out. She has to tell him to
Well,
leave.
I think suspicions start going towards Peter, not just from Jess, but also from Lieutenant Fuller. Um, Later on, Jess and Phil. So Phil is played by Andrea Martin, who's the house mother in the 2006 version. Not Phil Mitchell or Phil and Lil, a lady called Phil. Phil like Phyllis.
Uh,
They decide to lock every door and window in the ass. Bad
After
idea, though,
some
isn't it?
after some really overbearing like vigilante men come round who are doing the search,
Oh
because in
yeah,
the park they find the body of a murdered child, which we
they
don't
do.
see.
Yeah,
But then some fellas come round and say, now make sure you lock all the doors, you hear? And they like presented in the most sort of yokels kind of way that kind of freak them, and they have a little laugh. We said, oh bloody hell, those lunatics running out with a shotgun, I should lock all the bloody doors.
yeah. Um, and they even tell the carol singers. They say everyone should go home because there was a girl found dead in the park, and they go, yeah, we know. We've gone. I couldn't think of a better time to go out doing carol singing after a body of a young girl's just been found. Let's get
Yeah,
straight out of there.
gotta Carolyn ain't gonna do it herself.
Carolyn ain't gonna do it herself. Get
I've
yourself.
got this outfit dressed up. Save this special.
A girl's been murdered, unfortunately. What? Ah, carol singing night. Um, so yeah, not long after that, Phil gets murdered by the killer after she finds Barb's body. Um, which is a shame, really. I think it's a shame for Barb to die the way she does
Mm.
because she's quite a sort of big sort of character within it. She seems like a really strong, sort of like the glue that holds this group of girls together. Um, and she's like taking no shit, like making sure the police are taking things seriously, and if she just gets killed. In 2006, not the same. I don't think it's a character called Barb, but it's someone else who's like gets pissed right
She's
up.
the boozer, right? And
She's the boozer, yeah.
she's
So this
vomiting and
she's
gets her eyes put out while she's sleeping off the hangover.
yeah. Horrible that would be. I can't imagine feeling any worse. Oh, I've got a
Can you
horrible,
imagine?
terrible
Like you just
hangover.
sit there, oh, I've got such a bad head, my eyes are hurting. Oh, I just wish it would stop. Someone whacks a plastic bag over your head and stabs your eyes out.
Yeah,
Soon
I'd be
forget your
happy.
hangover, I suppose.
You'd forget it. It'd be gone. Yeah, it'd be gone. Um, yeah, so after that happens, I think Jess receives another obscene phone call, like well, I guess one of the final phone calls, and it's successfully traced by the police. And this is when the police say the call's coming from, and then they give the address of the sorority house. And then Lieutenant Fuller says that's where the call's going to. No, no, it's
So,
definitely coming from there.
and we get that coded earlier on because they sort of reveal that when they're looking at it, it goes, oh, the house mother has a separate line, her own phone
Yeah,
line.
exactly. Yeah. It's good though. It's a good sort of like blood runs cold sort of moment where you make that realization. And obviously, Lieutenant Fuller just tells Jess to leave the house, get out of there
Get down there.
immediately. Is it?
She,
Is there anyone else in the house with you? No, no, I don't think, or something like that. And
her
oh
other
no,
two
she,
friends who we know have been killed, but then so Jess runs upstairs to try and see them, and she sees, and it's the only real look we get at Billy, right? Like we see like a figure and we see an eye looking from the
yeah,
corner of the door, and she basically just bashes him with the door, right? It's a push
smashes,
door.
smushes him with the door. Yeah.
Runs down to the
Um,
basement.
Killer chases after, unable to open the front door. She can't get out, so she goes into the basement, locks it behind her. But like shortly after, Peter breaks through a basement window and is slowly approaching Jess, asking if you're all right. That's what I usually do. I smash through a window. If I've had a big argument with someone, smash through the window. Are you okay? Are you okay? And
Well, I
obviously
just
she
loom over you.
loom over you, and then she immediately goes, "Well, it's without a doubt this person." And I guess as the audience, we're supposed to believe that it's Peter as well at this point. Um, and in a state of panic, she smacks him with a fire poker
Bashes his head in with a poker.
and then bashes him to death. Yeah, exactly. And then the police
Absolutely
find them,
thumps
and I guess
shit out
it
of him.
it looks like they're both dead when the police find them. But then she opens her eyes. That's quite a good shot. Um, so yeah, and
And
then
this is a
so
great like 1970s and the thing. The police go, well, this seems like open and shut case to me. Peter was the murderer, and she bashed him to death. But she must be ever
yeah,
so tired from bashing him
put
to
her to
death.
bed.
Let's put her to bed.
Well, we could take her down to the station to get her
Tell you what, treat her hospital.
get her statement. Yeah, leave her alone in the bedroom. But then pretty much immediately we hear the killer's voice from the attic, and then a shadow descends the ladder, and then the phone begins to ring, implying that the killer is still alive. I like the fact that the phone call like lasts throughout the credits as well. That's pretty cool, like an unanswered call.
Just sits there ringing. There's a
He's
policeman
per-
standing right outside the door. Just answer it.
he's persistent. Just bloody answer it, for God's
How
sake.
does
No,
he
she's
climb
fast
down to
asleep.
get her? If he's, I suppose he could have rang the number.
She's left it
Oh,
on.
maybe that's it. Maybe he's rang the number so the police person will go and answer the phone coming away from the door so we can go down and do a
It's
murder.
true. That's true. We never get to
But we
really
never
know
find
what's
out because this film, as it is,
a
this
standalone.
didn't become a franchise in the traditional sense with endless
No,
sequels, right? Any
which
of
is
the films that
interesting
follow this could set on their own.
because you could have had that because you could have a film every year. But yeah, obviously we get the 2006 remake, which we discussed like quite a lot, and it's like it's a colorful, over the top Hollywood remake with like big set pieces and like twists and
An update
turns
in
and
technology. Everyone's got a mobile phone with a Christmas ringtone so they can be identified as to whose phone is being called and
yeah,
whose mobile is being used.
yeah.
There's like a love triangle where there's one
Oh
bad
yeah.
bloke boyfriend who's made a sex tape with another one of the house members,
And
one of
it's always
the
on the
girl that
laptop.
gets murdered, one of the girls that gets murdered at the very beginning and leaves her laptop annoyingly on standby, and then when the actual girlfriend is in the room, the power goes off and it goes
Yeah,
onto battery mode, basically blowing up screenshot of the freeze frame of their sex tape that this girl had
yeah.
left paused.
Not the bloody freeze frame of a sex
Okay.
tape. God, could be watching anything else before you went off to get murdered. And this is a very much like single location film as well. Like,
Mhm.
uh, it pretty much takes place all within this sorority house in one night. Whereas the
Yeah, we
original,
don't
obviously,
have
we
the out of the visiting
no
the police, no?
no visiting the police. It's like and all the standard things of like trying to get away from the house, like trying to get the car started. A lot of people. Can you get killed by a stalag? What's it called? The ice.
Like a
Stalag.
stalactite, but an icicle.
Can you get killed by one of them?
I mean, technically, does that count as a Billy murder?
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Does it
Because
count as a Billy murder?
all that's happened to the house mother is on a scene where they some people attempt to stay in the house and some people go to get help. There's a snowstorm, meaning the police aren't going to be available to come and help quickly. She gets out of the car while is it Elizabeth Winstead's in the car,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As well,
and
she's
then
starting the car. Yeah,
she just gets blood splattered from the inside of the car, and we don't really see what happens to her because the window's
yeah.
frozen over.
That's a
And
shame, though,
then
isn't it? Someone like
the
Mary
house mother
Elizabeth Winstead,
just looks away and gets
yeah,
an icicle in the eye.
gets an icicle straight through the eye. Bloody hell! Happens to the best of us, mate, doesn't it? Happens
Does
to the best of us.
does
The kills are obviously a lot more like over the top and
it
gory
does
and like
go for
classic.
it, this 2006. It's, I think, even for
It
the
does.
era's level, it's not Saw levels of gore in the torture porn era, but for a slasher, I think it goes pretty hard.
It does go pretty hard, yeah. Um, and I enjoyed it for what it did. I think is
Yeah,
like
I
I
think
think if you're of this era and for us it's very much like the kind of film that we're familiar with, so we probably enjoy it more, whereas Black Christmas can probably feel a little bit like it's of its time and we understand what it's inspired, but at the same time, like, do we enjoy it as much as something like Black Xmas? I mean, it depends what you're looking for, really, doesn't it?
it does. It does.
but but unfortunately 2019 just didn't work out, really, did
Right.
it? Black Christmas gave you my heart. But the very
Yeah.
next day, you yanked out my eyes like a pair of mittens. Uh,
Yes. So all the eye poking of 2006's, all the original slasher genre inspiring and horrible malicious phone call having of the original. And then we get to 2019's Black Christmas. And I need to look into this, but just going in cold, Ben,
cold,
do you
cold as
think
ice.
this got Black Christmas associated with it later and was completely written
What?
on its own?
I don't know. I don't know, really. It's a weird one, isn't it? I think Sorority House at Christmas, like, I don't think you can write an original script for that and not link it to Black Christmas in a way.
I think
But
you
to
got
kind of,
you've got the house on Sorority Road though. There's so many
yeah,
sorority house related
okay.
murder films.
I guess it, yeah. But this is, I mean, I missed it in 2019 because I think I was keen for it, but then I heard the reviews and I was a bit like, okay, maybe it doesn't sound so great. Um,
Well, now I
yeah.
think of it, I mean, it is set at Christmas, but would it have needed to have been?
I mean, not necessarily, no. It just happened to be
Could have
at
been Easter bank
Christmas.
holiday.
Yeah. I mean, this feels like, I mean, it is directed by a woman, so it is directed by Sophia Takao, um, who's got a couple of feature films under her belt. But despite the fact it's directed by a woman, it almost feels like a sort of feminist horror movie, but a, from a point of view that's like trying too hard to make a good point. That, like, because obviously, yeah, there are things like toxic masculinity, female empowerment, sexual assault and rape and stuff that are absolutely at home in a horror movie, especially a slasher movie. It's a slasher movie where, at its very heart, the story is usually violence against women committed by a man, like mass violence against women committed by a man. Obviously, there are male victims as well, but I think at its heart, most of the big ones, that's where Final Girls come from, obviously as well. Um, but yeah, it's the script, it's the dialogue, it's the characters, it's the death and the violence, which is like pretty much mostly off screen. I think there's a couple of sequences where somebody's turning a body around. Oh, we're gonna see like a piece of glass in a face. No. Um, it's just a very watered down version of what like it could have been. And there's even a moment, a proper like Avengers Endgame moment where all of the women who have been
Yeah,
wronged throughout the film will come
they get on
together.
they on your left. You're the bad
They on your
blokes at
left.
the end.
And they've got some weird weapons when they're fighting all the blokes. Like one of them's got a sled, I think, and like
Is
some of
it
them have
and
got.
there's isn't like the paddles that they use for hazing? I mean, not being from the US,
Yeah,
fraternity culture is something which entirely eludes me. I mean, us culturally as a
yeah,
country, I'm sure that they have clubs in British unis as well. I mean, famously, the Prime Minister and other people that go to big old posh schools be horrible twats while they're at uni, but
yeah.
having sex with pigs and the like. But um, the it's strange for me. It's a really alien concept because if there's one thing I hate, Ben, it's joining in. Fucking
I
joining
bloody
in
hate
is the
joining in. Can you join
worst
in with this?
bullshit.
Right, if you want to join this club, yeah, you got to do something horrible and humiliating.
Yeah,
I don't.
I
I
don't want
can't be
to.
bothered.
I don't want to do something that's objectively quite nice. If the joining of a fraternity house for me would be, you've got to come go karting with us and have a bloody nice time. I'd be like, oh, fucking don't. Oh, the worst organized fun. Yuck. Um, yeah, I would have done no good at US University. I severely
Yeah.
doubt it.
And of
Um,
course, in this film, there's no Billy. There's no like one person committing these murders and creepy phone calls. There is essentially, and we're going to spoil this film, of course. It's got a supernatural element. There's a statue which is removed from. So yeah, there's a lot of it focuses a lot on people like social justice warriors and the negatives and the positives of that. Um, and sort of obviously the removal of that statue which happened, and a lot of people are sort of disappointed about that. A lot of the men on campus, including one particular teacher who's also being there's a um what's it
a
called?
petition being
A
sent
petition. That's
around.
it. Where they
Stop
go around,
teaching only books by horrible blokes.
stop teaching only books by like white men, essentially. And here's the thing: these are all points of view that I completely understand and completely am on board with. However, I think the delivery of it in this film, and it's not like the characters as such, it's kind of just, well, actually, maybe it is some of the characters. It's just like this. It's just like the script and the delivery of it, like the way it kind of comes across as it's knowing, but I don't know. It's almost like, well, who am I supposed to root for then? Obviously, I'm not rooting for the horrible misogynist, but am I also rooting for these characters who pretty much every line of dialogue they say has got some sort of line based on I don't know. It feels like everything that's wrong with the Me Too movement, and there's not a lot of it. There's a very small minority of it that's been weaponized. Is like that come to life in movie form. Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
everything that anyone would look at the Me Too movement and disapprove of. Not me, but like obviously there's a certain side of things that look at the Me Too movement and are critical of that. I feel like this is everything that they think it is when it's not. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
I guess yeah. You could say that gives ammunition to people that want to be critical in that sense, and I feel to a degree, they it's really close. I wasn't so much bothered by the messaging and stuff because I think there are some areas where they even try to address that a little bit. There is a
Mm.
character who is a friend of the group at the beginning who is
Oh yeah,
very
of
much
course,
like
yeah.
and he kind of has they kind of have a falling out and then he is caught up in it a bit later
But
on
then
where he
but then
goes
we
like
make out that the only reason
why are you saying that the are you
no,
including me in this when you're
he not
talking
all
about these
mends them,
bad
doesn't he?
blokes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he not all
And
mends them.
yeah, and the film dissects that in almost an interesting way. The thing where this really lost me is I think there's a loss of agency when it turns out that there is this statue, the statue that was removed and then is the focal point for later on.
Hmm.
It is just a magic statue that had magic words in it and
full of venom.
full of venoms. And when they use this like ancient incantation right, it turns even normal people um into horrible, almost like mind controlled, horrible misogynist monster men
Yeah, with masks and hoods. So obviously
with
we're
masks and
supposed.
hoods. So we've got the slasher killers
So we
there.
think it's just one of these people initially, but then it turns out no, it's not. It's
And
loads
it
of people.
and it is there is a leader, there is a character that before the film started in a previous story sexually assaulted one of our lead characters,
I genuinely don't
but was
know
never punished for that,
in
and as
terms of
the
like the
teacher.
terms of like the horrible self-entitled misogynist guys. It feels like every character in this is such a cookie cutter of that. They all look the same. They all act the same. They all seem to say the same sort of things. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like I they're too easy to hate, so it almost just makes it too obvious that who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, who are
Yeah.
the and then when it gives it a supernatural edge, it's almost like okay, right, so are they completely
the
blameless
supernatural
in
the
this?
supernatural edge to that is what is almost what lost me for it. I think you could have just had a a story where there can just be bad people, and maybe there can be some people that have been hoodwinked into it or have been brought along into it because they've fed into those messages of, well, when these things are criticized, they are criticizing you because you're a guy, or when you're trying to put people against each other, when the female characters are taking on these they're trying to diminish your opportunities, you're right. So you could have people who aren't beginning the situation bad, but are drawn into that
Yeah.
us versus them narrative and led into extreme views by this one. I think you take away so much agency of the characters when you literally make it a magic ooze that comes out of a statue.
Yeah. That's
If you get
yeah,
it on your
exactly.
forehead, you'll be horrible now.
And we talk about like films that when I mentioned Better Watch Out and the fact that it was like a nasty film, and a really like almost to the degree where it felt like it was too easy to just absolutely hate the characters. And I almost feel like that in a way with this, even though it's not out and out like that in terms of the intentions of the film. I just feel like yeah, I'm already making assumptions of all of the characters involved before the supernatural element is even added in. And then it's like, well, I don't really know what to make of this film now. Like, because am I supposed to think that these people are now victims of this thing? Like, at least if it wasn't so, if there was a gray area, if it wasn't so black and white, I could kind of understand it. And maybe if there was a big bad sort of overseeing things, but yeah, it kind of just falls apart
And
very early on.
especially for what I understand of the loyalty and the lack of autonomy that people are expected to buy into with these fraternity houses and so on,
Hmm.
I could have bought into the fact that it was just an incredibly toxic fraternity, and they were indoctrinating those people into that with rhetoric versus the being a magic
Mm.
thing. It was a supernatural element for me, which was like, fuck me dead. Like
Mm.
I'm quite comfortable with there being bad people in this. I don't want there to be. I kind of think it's a bit of a cop out to say, well, there was maybe one or two bad apples, but actually everyone else was just magicked.
Everyone else is just bloody yeah, exactly. Everyone else is just magic, and almost in a way, it undoes the message of the film as well, doesn't it? It undoes the message of a lot of the people, the main characters and
Yeah,
stuff. So,
and I totally get it from a point of view that, um, especially where you do lean into the Black Christmas story, that it is led by majority female cast, and you want there to be a female led story in the solution. And I did quite like it when they on your left them at the end and all the other women that you didn't think were going to help come and they have a big old battle. That was brutal. And that was quite a fun part when they're having like a big old battle and they're
yeah.
battering everyone in that thing. And then they lock all those people in that dorm room to die in a big fire. Ever so many fire hazards in this one.
So many fire hazards. Yeah.
The original the one thing we didn't cover in the 2006 Black Christmas, that we get a Halloween 2 style sort of post credits 20 minutes at the hospital where our survivors
Oh yeah, of course. When you
fight.
think it's over, and
Agnes
then
comes back again and she has to get, before Scream 4, surely, uh,
yeah,
defibrillated to death. And
yeah,
then
that's good.
Billy goes out like a chump. He breaks the cardinal rule of fighting on the stairs and gets pierced on a spike.
Pierced on a spike, a Christmas
Oh,
tree
big
spike.
Christmas tree.
Yeah,
Yeah, so but just to go back to 2019's, I want that, I think a female-led solution feeds really well into the story and the characters you're building out. So I wouldn't want the story to be that, and then there's a good bloke and he stands up to the horrible misogynists and he helps the women.
yeah,
I'm quite happy for it to be. I think it should be a female-led story, but I think
yeah.
you could have dropped the supernatural element to me, and then you could have had people, and you could have maybe even told another story about how, yeah,
I
there's
think it.
horrible toxic people and there are other people that are around, but if you don't say things that call these things out, then
Hmm,
you aren't able to help with any of the solutions and you're useless in these situations. They could have,
yeah,
I think it has the potential to continue to tell the story it wanted to tell and have the messages it wanted to tell, but maybe just from a pure horror mechanics area, dial down on one of those areas, get the
yeah.
supernatural element out of it, and you're probably a stronger film
Spiritual
for it.
spiritual successor didn't want. And to be fair, a lot of the reviews for Black Christmas are really, really negative, and not necessarily because of the subject matter, because of the s- the sort of messaging and stuff like that. It does seem like people are just not a fan of it because it's a bit of a watered down slasher. Doesn't feel like a spiritual successor to either of the Black Christmas movies. Kind of just steps away from that sort of style of slasher. And despite the fact that the other two had sort of elements of misogyny to them, and there's an interesting story to tell there about abuse, various different types of abuse, it just seems to like bypass that for what feels like a bit of a um I don't want to say over the top, but a bit of a just heavy hand. I think heavy handed is the word I'm going to use to describe this. It just feels very heavy handed. Like some of some of the dialogue options, I say options, like there were more than one choice for
Like
each
the
thing.
choice,
But
yeah.
some things people say, I'm a bit like, oh, is that really what you're saying in this? Like, it makes me kind of cringe rather than go, hell yeah, these characters are great. I want them to succeed. I want them to triumph over
Mm.
these men. I want them to triumph over this situation. I get a bit like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. And yeah, some of the decisions are a bit dodgy. I guess we will rate all three of them. And I guess do a little mini ranking at the
Yeah, do your
end.
little mini ranking, how you rank them. Before you do that, Ben, and I'll let you get away with it, you got to pick those three animals.
Oh yeah. What's this? What was it? What was it again?
Uh, the
Pick your three
metaphor
favorite
the
animals.
metaphor is that the first one is the animal that you see in yourself. The second one was the animal you look for in a partner, I think.
Oh
And
God.
then the third one was the animal you look for in the qualities of your friends. Have you thought about this extensively?
No, I haven't thought about it extensively. Right. Look for seeing myself.
Maybe it doesn't work if you know the metaphors
Yeah,
before.
that's
You
true.
just have to
Maybe it
say,
doesn't.
pick three
Like
random animals, quick.
a howling gibbon.
Howling
Uh,
gibbon,
big loud bastard.
big long
Attention,
arms.
attention seeking, big long arms. Just bothersome to everybody around them. Essentially. Sorry, gibbon. It's probably a bit harsh. Uh, I look for in a partner. I don't know about you, Andy, but I'm not interested in making any sort of relationship with an animal. What's the sexiest animal out there?
Sexy Cadbury's caramel bunny. It's twice that
Yeah,
one's come
there
up.
we go. Sexy Cadbury's Caramel Bunny, or the bunny from Space Jam, Girl Bunny. Is it in the sequel?
Lola Rabbit.
Lola Rabbit. There we go.
Or
Bunny.
Lola Bunny, I guess, because she's related to Bugs
Lola,
Bunny.
Lola Bunny. And what was the third one? Friends.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Do you also say ants because you like friends who can lift 10 times
I
their own
like
body
friends
weight?
that can lift 10 times their own body weight and they can carry me. Actually, what I look for in a partner is a praying mantis. Bite me head off and make love to me shag me, right, and then bite my head off. And
Kill
is that
me.
what does the praying
Yeah, that's what
mantis
you
do
want.
that? Praying mantis.
Yeah.
And friends. I mean, little lovely little puppies. Who can I? What's my favorite thing to do with friends?
Oh, dogs, very loyal, very good.
Loyal dogs. That's always good. What I'm trying to think of an animal that's got the banter. What animal's got the banter? Actually, cats have got pretty good banter. They knock things off the.
Yeah.
They're always on the wind up, aren't they? Cats. Annoying. It's a difficult question,
Well,
Andy. What about you? What about
right
you?
in everybody. For me, hyenas, velociraptor. Um,
It's not a bloody animal.
yes, it is.
What? So you want a clever girl
Yeah,
as someone you look for in a partner? Hyena. That's you, is it?
yeah.
Whoopi
Got
Goldberg.
a
Whoopi Goldberg
got
voiced.
silly old laugh, but got all my mates with me. That's all right. Um,
That's good.
and then the last one, friends.
It's hard, isn't it?
Scorpion, survive in any environment. There you go.
Oh yeah. Cockroach.
Oh, spiders. I like creative types. Very inspirational.
Oh yeah. They're always making a big old web that you just
Yeah, and
destroy.
you can inject people with fluid and desire and eat them from the inside out. That's what I look for in
Oh,
friends. There you
oh
go.
different.
So my answer is hyena, velociraptor, spiders.
I like it. I like it. Right. Have we got to do a bit of name game?
I've
A
got a
bit of
bit of
Black
name game
Christmas
for
name
you.
game.
Yeah, a
Very
bit of Black
nice.
Christmas name game.
Very, very nice. Okay. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. What synopsis are you going to go for? Pick your poison. Which one do you want?
I guess we should just do the original synopsis, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Which is during their Christmas break, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a stranger on phone. I've added that.
Okay. So during their Christmas holiday party, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a sportsman turned martial artist turned actor, all round all time star.
Sportsman turned martial artist turned.
This person has a style of martial art named after them in a video game, and he's after him.
A style of martial art. Jackie Chan Christmas.
It's not Jackie Chan Christmas,
Chuck
unfortunately.
Norris Christmas.
No, began as a sportsman. He's a big tall man. This guy is.
A big tall man.
He's a
What
big
sort of era?
tall.
What
He's a
sort of
big
era of
tall
sport?
sportsman of the 90s. He's still going though. Maybe not as a
Shaq
sports.
Christmas. Shaq
Shaq
Fu.
Christmas, very
Got
good.
it. Trying to
Shaq
think of all the
Christmas.
trying to think of all the tall fellows I know. Uh, very good. I like it. Have I got any? I think I got some. Okay. During their Christmas break, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a duck.
Is it Quack Christmas?
It is Quack Christmas. Thank you.
Um, during their Christmas party, a bunch of sorority girls, having thought they'd escaped him once, are in ever such a lot of trouble when Mark Morrison and his stun gun return for revenge.
Stun gun.
Yeah, he got done for that.
Did he? Return of the Mac Christmas.
Return of the Mac Christmas. I think I'm going on my best ones early. Sorry.
During their Christmas break, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a stranger who's very angry at the wax job he recently received of all of his delicate
Backsack and
areas.
Crack Christmas.
Yeah. Back,
Um,
sack, and crack Christmas.
in this film, a group of sorority girls find themselves in ever so much trouble when they've been having just far too many little picky bits at their Christmas party and they're not going to be able to enjoy their dinner.
Is it Snack Christmas?
Snack Christmas, it is.
Very good. I like it. I'm just trying to make sure I got this right. A second. So Christmas 1974.
Yep.
Fuck's sake. I'm typing something and then I'm definitely pressing enter, but it's just deleting it.
So, no, you can't search for that.
You can't have that. You're not allowed. Christmas 1974. Everybody gets a lovely Christmas present, right?
Mhm.
It's a game where you've got to recreate certain athletic sports based on running, jumping, and throwing, and you've got to just tap the buttons as quick as you can.
International Track and Field Christmas.
Correct. International Track Brackets and Field Christmas.
Very good.
I was trying to work out
Very
what
good.
it was actually called.
I
Okay.
don't think those can be topped. I think they're the best Black
Yeah,
Christmas
that's it. That's
parodies
all we need, isn't
available.
it? That's all we need. So we got to let's rate the films and let's give them a rating. So let's start off with our lowest rated film of the three. Is it 2019's Black
It
Christmas?
is for me 2019's Black Christmas.
Yeah. How would you like to rate it? A to F.
Uh,
Oh, a bit harsh, isn't it?
yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go an E.
Oh,
I'm gonna
Jesus.
go. I'm gonna go E plus.
E plus.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
because I've rated films I've enjoyed a far lot more than this in the D brackets. D's get degrees, Ben. I say this every time, but um, I don't think it quite passes the muster for me, just because the supernatural element comes so far out of left field and really
Yeah.
derails what's been quite a grounded film until that point. And I think it wasn't without potential.
Mm.
You know, I can write off things like like the way that the kills are dealt with. I can deal with some of the characterization. These are choices you make, but
Hmm.
uh, whether it was something that an edict that came in from the producers or something else, this supernatural element really just blows it for me. It takes away any
Yeah.
agency from all of the characters, and uh, it would have been so much stronger for me if they hadn't done that. So
Yeah.
an E plus for me.
E plus is fair. I mean, I was gonna go for a D minus. That's not much different, is it? Only because, it just doesn't hold up as a spiritual successor to the other films. I'm totally on board with the sort of the feminist angle, even though the other films have got feminist elements to them, and I just think the fact that it goes in so hard on that, but doesn't back it up with like actual misogynistic bastards that we can see getting taken down and kind of just makes it have this supernatural element. It just feels a bit, as I said, heavy-handed, but also like it just misunderstands the source material. And maybe it doesn't care about the source material. Maybe it's gone, this is a completely new story. But with everybody involved, like I like Imogen Poots. I think Imogen Poots is great, and I think she is great in this. It's just clunky, very
Yeah,
clunky. Script is very clunky, and I don't even know if you can consider it a horror film. Almost felt like at times one of those sort of like young adult dramas, Netflix drama
feel like
that
it's something that you might see a little clip of being played at 1.5 speed to avoid copyright infringements in a Facebook Reels video.
in a Facebook Reels video, yeah, or you watch the whole film on TikTok, just like part one, part two, part three. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go D minus. I think again, this is probably gonna be. I know what you said in a little message earlier, saying your number one's probably gonna be a bit of a surprise. But what are you going for number two?
You know what? I'm going to show my vintage and my era.
Yeah.
It's a slither, Ben. It's by a slither. But I'm going to put the original in my second spot.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I think just because there are a lot of films from the like mid 2000s era that don't hit home for me, but I feel like 74 is a great film. It's paced nice. It's again an era of films that I do enjoy. It's paced nicely. I like those early slasher influences. I think the cast is great and the scares and the kills are very methodical and good.
Yeah.
But something about 2006, it's the cast, it's the ridiculous nature of it. It's that final act that we get away from the house, in the hospital. I think it's good. It's enjoyable. I think there are plenty of slashers from around that time that I've rewatched that perhaps don't hold up, whereas I feel like this one does. Uh, so yeah, I
So,
guess original
yeah.
second for me as well. But what would you like to rate it?
Okay. So the original for me I think you have to give it credit for all the things it goes on to inspire. You get those first person looks, you get
Yeah.
those disturbing phone calls and the use of the old urban legend. Really, really strong fundamentals. And I really quite appreciated the asides, the conversations away from the actual bits of the horror. I think those are some
Mm-hmm.
really good sort of night and day in a horror movie where you get the safety of the daytime and then the horrors that come at night. But the delivery of the kills are immediately outshone by things like Halloween that came afterwards. Um, and it's just a little bit opaque for me, like a little bit difficult to follow. I don't think it gives you quite enough to really latch onto from my side. And there is also, just as a piece of entertainment, an awful lot of time listening to someone answer an obscene phone call.
Yeah.
Right. So it's still good. I'll recognize its heritage and I will give it a C plus. I'm not against watching this again. I think certainly with with a bit of reading around the sides as well, I am interested to find out what else has been, maybe some of the intentions. There is, I did see when I was reading the notes on this, there is a novelization of it which came out the following year. I
Oh,
might,
right. Okay.
as it's Christmas, check that out.
Check it
Uh,
out.
so the
Checking it
novelization came,
out.
a novelization by Lee Hayes, published in 1976. I might check out the Lee Hayes novelization to see how much of what we saw in Black Xmas 2006 came
Yeah.
from this novelization, and see the build out of it. I'll add it to the ever growing reading list. But yeah,
So
A C plus.
a C plus. I'm gonna go for a straight C for the original. And probably just a C plus for Black Xmas. And C plus probably sounds a little bit like harsh, but it's not harsh because I think C plus for me is like still enjoyable, but like I think B is where I'm getting into the realms of still enjoyable,
Favorites, watch them again.
but
Yeah.
but I enjoyed. I watched it. I will watch again. A's are like the next. That's the next level. But C plus I think is good enough for that. What were you rating Black Xmas? Black
Black
Christmas?
Xmas, I'm going to put them both on a C plus. The
Oh, it's a
that's
sliver.
how
It's a sliver.
sliver like it is, because whereas Black Xmas, I'm going to call it that for simplicity, having now made it take longer by explaining that's what I'm doing. But yeah, for me, fractionally better. I would, because of the modernity of it, the people that are in it are people I recognize from being that age at the time when growing up. So it's a lot about familiarity for
Yeah.
me. Unlike original Black Christmas, it doesn't do a lot that would go on to inspire things. It's very much taking the playbook of films that already exist and updating an older film, right?
Yeah.
So it's not it's not doing anything groundbreaking. I don't think it's doing anything that isn't tried and tested and not trope worthy at this point. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a good holiday themed slasher movie.
Yeah.
It's got good kills, and genuinely, some of the visuals, particularly with the plastic bags, again, maybe it's my sort of vintage specific Ben. I grew up in an era where there were warnings about putting plastic bags on your head, and there's a couple of bits about these things where, particularly one of them, I think it's when the boyfriend gets slurped off up into the loft, and a plastic bag is put over his head, and he breathes in, and you see like the
Yeah.
plastic
Yeah.
pull to. It's quite scary. I've never had a plastic bag stuck over my head. I imagine it'd be bloody horrible. Um, yeah, it's quite visceral in
It
those
taps into
moments.
those real fears, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think, yeah, if I was going to recommend any of it, I think if you're like of this era where 2000s horror, like it stands up against things like Urban Legend and I Know What You Did Last Summer
absolutely.
easily. If you enjoy films like that, definitely go for this one. If you're more of a classic case and you got more classic tastes, then probably the 1974 one, I would say. But both I would recommend.
So your C plus, right?
Yeah, CC plus, and you're going C plus, C plus. Okay,
Yeah. So
sweet.
I so we're
There we go.
D minus, C, C plus, and I am E plus, C plus, C
That's
plus.
fair enough. Close enough. There we go. That's all 3 versions of Black Christmas. Tell us what your favorite is. If you've seen all of them, if you haven't seen all of them, tell us which one you have seen and you do like. But yeah, if you haven't seen any of them, go and check out 1 or 2 of them, depending on what
I
we've
mean,
said.
all three if you've really got the stamina.
All
I
3
mean,
if you got the stamina. Yeah,
I would,
we're all about
I
stamina on
would
this show.
actually, I'd love to hear from someone who really loves the 2019 Black Christmas, and if you've got a
Yeah.
very different, if you've got a very different take on it, tell you what, don't mind being wrong or people having alternative opinions. If you think that the supernatural element really made it for you, and maybe it was a glimmer of hope that blokes aren't just horrible, it was a magic statue sometimes. I'm being flippant, but if you've got a different take on it, I would love to think of a way that this could be
Yeah.
appraised differently. So agree, disagree,
Yeah.
give us your orders, give us the ones you've been watching, give us the ones you won't watch or
Hmm.
might want to seek out.
There we
Certainly
go.
the newest one, 2019, is on Shudder right now. It's the original one as well.
Yeah, I think a couple of them might be on Shadow. Uh,
Thankfully, I had hard copies of the all but the newest one.
Oh, nice. Um, there we go then. That is all 3 versions of Black Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. Of course, you won't be hearing our voices again until after the big day, so please enjoy yourselves. Uh, drink and eat responsibly or irresponsibly, as long as you're in the comfort of your own home. Watch a lovely festive horror film and surrounded by your loved ones. Fall asleep in front of the fire. Be careful though, fire
Yeah.
hazards are very real.
That's
Um,
very real, and obviously, if you're bad, Santa from Silent Night, Deadly Night will come and scream "punish" before bloody axing you. So be good.
Punish! So yeah, thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review. And of course, if you're doing things like these are my favorite podcasts of the year and you want to include us, do it, but tag us, please, so we can share it. At Horror Hangout Podcast on pretty much everything because we're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Don't make a list of your least favorite podcasts and include us on it because that's just mean. Next
And you'll
week,
have
around
outed yourselves, and we'll be able to come and get you in a terrible revenge plot at Christmas time, possibly.
we will. Maybe we'll be controlled by Black Ooze though, so we won't be to blame.
So actually, not legally culpable.
Not
Okay.
legally culpable, no. Next week it is the big end of year quiz. Andy, Quizmaster, is putting together questions as we speak, not right
Not as we
now, but
speak,
like
be ever
not
so
as we
rude.
speak.
About a podcast reading as they're typing away at questions. But in moments that I'm not speaking to Ben or anybody else, building
Yeah.
those questions up ready for an end of year challenge. You need to work out when we're recording it, because of course
Yeah,
our
but it
next
will.
recording day is going to be Christmas Day. Couldn't possibly.
No, we won't be doing that. But the episode will be out next week between Christmas and New Year. Not sure what day yet. Probably not the Wednesday, maybe like a little bit later in the week. So,
Sometime
yeah,
after we record it, but before we record the next one.
exactly. Exactly. That's how it works. Has been over
No,
a
it is.
year.
Days
So,
mean nothing at Christmas. Relax, it's coming.
exactly. Betwixtmas, someone called it recently.
Yeah.
Like between Christmas. I don't know. It's rubbish now. Enjoy yourselves. Thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure. And thanks, Andy, for being a right horror dude.
Thanks for being a right horror dude. Right, I was going to say all this year, Ben, but you might fail next week. So thanks for being a right horror dude so far this year.
Yeah.
And I will see you next time.
Falling at the final hurdle. Don't want to do that.
Don't want to do
Be
that.
careful. Right. Don't put a plastic bag on your head. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Good night. Bye. Merry Christmas.
Bye.